Anyway, Danny, I want to focus because it's very fortunate. We had Nick Pert, Grandmaster Nick Pert, in a couple of days, and yesterday I started briefly launching off into a discussion about the French until I realised that we had one of the foremost French experts next to me, and then I eventually acquiesced to let him speak. Let's go through this opening because, Danny, I know that your main weapon, is it fair to say your main weapon against E4 is the Sicilian C5?
Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, I was a bit worried Simon would play modern. I think the Sicilian or the French is a better choice for Simon. But the problem with the Sicilian now, as we see in this game, is that you generally don't get main lines. You know, everybody plays some kind of, you know.
So if I could talk a little bit about this, Danny, without upsetting you. There's an idea. I appreciate David's gone for what's called a closed Sicilian. By the way, it's not quite the O'Kelly because the O'Kelly is very importantly white has the knight on f3 followed by pawn a6. Yeah. It is similarly O'Kelly style Sicilian, but white played knight c3 here, and I understand that he's followed up with what's called the closed Sicilian. Is that right, Danny? G3?
Yeah, that was actually a favourite of an ex-world champion who I played over the board, Boris Spassky from Russia, and he had many brilliant wins in the closed Sicilian. And the problem that I mentioned the other day that I lost a game against Dave Ledger in this opening once, and the problem that Black has is whereas the Sicilian, if white goes in the main line, gives you a target, you know how to play. The closed Sicilian is much more difficult to win the game because white is essentially a rock. He's going to slowly push forward. He's not trying to do anything quickly. So you essentially have to bide your time. But the problem with the closed Sicilian from white's point of view, it doesn't give you an advantage. This has been known for many years.
So when we talk about the closed Sicilian, we talk about knight c3, just referencing your brilliant knowledge, Danny, of what's called the white. It's clear that David didn't want to play what's called the Grand Prix attack, and it's quite interesting that the reason why white, and I know appreciate just slightly off topic, very slightly, the reason why white stopped playing 2f4 is primarily because of this move d5, isn't it, Danny?
Yeah, I mean that's one way to pretty much equalise the game immediately, because the problem is if you go, black now has quick development. If you take on d5, I go knight f6. I could also take with a queen, knight f6, and then I take back on d5, and you kind of have holes in your position, right? You have a potential long-term weakness on e4. If you go d3, you might have weakness on e3. So yeah, these are not lines that have for many years have been considered to give black any problems. But knight c3. Also, Magnus Carlsen has used the closed Sicilian himself. Again, he's very flexible in his approach, and is very capable of winning from slightly dull and not particularly inspiring positions. He's used the closed Sicilian with a lot of success. I think every time he's played it, he's pretty much won. So he's used it as a sparing weapon over the years. But yeah, I mean, what did Simon play?
Well, Simon thought for 5 minutes and played a very trendy sort of modern response, which is 2a6.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. I think if you're going to play b5 and bishop b7, then why not play against something like this where white isn't putting any pressure on?
So white does have the option, by the way, of doing. And by the way, just to let people know, currently there is a sale on at GingerGM up to 50% off everything, including Danny's fantastic course, which is how to win chess tournaments, isn't it, Danny?
Yeah, but I can't remember lots. It should be changed to how to win like a game, because I can't remember.
Well, maybe Danny, you could do a prequel to your course.
How to win a pawn.
How to win a pawn. And part of the reason I mentioned this as well, the sale, because it's going to end today, because we are celebrating or trying to support the GingerGM in his Reykjavik Open quest. But there's also a course, an excellent course, which again I have watched all the way through from start to finish, by Gwaine Jones in the Grand Prix attack, where his main weapon in this position would be the move pawn to f4.
Yeah,
and if you want to check that out, that's a very interesting line, very aggressive line, and one which Gwaine's course filmed a few years ago, but still I checked up, a lot of the theory is still very much up to date. However, white had different intentions, a little bit more of a slow approach. Certainly nothing wrong with this approach, Danny, as you said, very solid. He went g3. So talk us through this move, Danny, please.
Yeah, I mean, I think this shows that White was never really intending to play f4 because, as you said, after a6, f4 seems like a very good reply. But I think White always intended all along to play this close Sicilian setup. But it seems surprising to me that Black didn't play b5 here because that seems more in fitting with the move a6. Once you go knight c6 and g6, does the move a6 make that much sense?
Yeah, what's the point behind it, Danny? I'm just wondering that because if I were Black here, and if I was Simon here as well, particularly, I'd play b5 and then.
I don't know if b5 is a good move here, but I've been recently looking at the Can and Time Arnold because I think that's actually a really good Sicilian.
So I think, Danny, if you can talk us through those moves, because just explain to us the difference between why is this called a closed Sicilian as opposed to an open Sicilian for those of you people in the chat who might not know.
Well, the closed Sicilian is where White doesn't go d4. So White effectively, well, of course, if you went c3 and d4, that's not a closed Sicilian because you're opening up the centre. But the closed Sicilian is where you ignore the pawn on c5 and play around it and basically just go knight c3, g3.
So White sort of plays 2 knight f3, and pretty much whatever Black's second sensible move is, they play the move 3 pawn to d4, and that's what defines an open Sicilian, isn't it?
Yeah, I've always liked the Sicilian as Black. I've always thought it's the best way to play. We talked about Keith Farkle earlier. He has this theory called hierarchy of pawns, and his theory is every pawn has slightly more important than another pawn, and therefore exchanging the c pawn for the d pawn is a slight gain for Black. I would agree with that. But now strong computers are saying that White is actually very much ahead in the mainline Sicilians. So actually at the very top level, you see the Sicilian slightly less than you did, say, 15 years ago, because...
Absolutely right, Danny. I mean, at the highest level of chess, e4, e5 is by far and away the most played, isn't it?
And
when we're talking about 2700 plus.
Incredibly boring and... lines I really don't understand, which are these horrible, Guccio piano or whatever, where they go e4, e5, knight f3, bishop c4. I just want to kill myself as soon as I see those moves appear on the board. But
good morning to everyone who's joining us, by the way. Amadan Killian, who is a very strong player and got a lot of theoretical knowledge as well in the opening. Killian, if we could just keep to using a standard notation, please, with small letters for the files, that would be appreciated. However, moving back to the board.
Yeah, Killian Delaney, I think he played in a match against us the other day where I lost to Gavin. I had a big advantage, but I missed his move knight d5, and Gavin played quite well after that. And very good friend of mine, Gavin.
Yeah, you've got on very well historically, haven't you? And there's no rivalry in the quiz world. You're a very strong quizzer,
Gavin. He's a much better quizzer than me, but he's actually he could be.
You're pretty good yourself, though.
Yeah, but he could be like a British champion quizzer, but I don't think he wants to compete or he's got no desire to compete. But he's got very good memories. So yeah, I mean, a lot of chess players are interested in quizzing. Another guy who was quite good at quizzing was Jonathan Nelson.
Oh, was it? Yeah, I remember. By the way, I remember once going to when I was very young, playing the British Championships or the Major Open, and I saw him play a quiz machine. He got one question wrong in 20 minutes, Danny.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I mean, they used to. He used to team up with Dave Rainford from Eggheads, who's tremendous knowledge. Dave, black guy on Eggheads.
Oh right, I didn't know that was who it was. Who was his
he was a friend of his, and. Sadly, he passed away quite recently. But they used to go around back in the 1980s, probably late. I don't know when exactly this was, but it's something like late 1980s, early 1990s. They used to buy quiz machines, and they'd spend all day, every day, learning the questions on the quiz machines at home, and then they go into pubs around the country and play pub quiz machines and make loads of money out of them. But obviously the pub landlords weren't necessarily particularly delighted about this,
Yeah, they had to sort of like cut and run, didn't they? But by the way,
Yeah.
I was always quite skeptical of these sort of stories. So I was spoke to Johnny and I went, I found Daddy, I found a quiz machine, and he was like, no, I can't really. I'm playing here to play chess. I'm not here to demonstrate what I know to be true. And I went, oh, go on, come on, show me. And as I say, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, you got one question wrong. And that's how.
Yeah, yeah.
He did know it all. I saw it with my own eyes. Let's put it that way.
But I think they've changed it now, where it's very difficult to win. That's what he's.
They throw in random questions, like questions which you can't possibly remember the answer to, like what was the top speed of Concorde, like 382.16.19.
It's like fruit machines. Like fruit machines will either pay out or they won't pay out. No matter what you do. And so they changed it now because obviously they didn't like people like clean them out. So they changed it to where, because of the internet, that's what he said. The internet updates the questions. So
by the way, thank you very much, Kingslayer Sloan, for the raid. Daddy, of course, I'm trying to do a bit of housekeeping, I understand, with the Twitch thing, Obviously, thanks very much to Ray. Thanks to everyone who's joining us. So, Danny, let's talk through the... I could talk to you all day, Daddy, you know that.
I know, a lot of people could. But I've had to take out restraining orders against them, so...
By the way, what I got sent through the post today? That's why we're not allowed to be in the studio
together. I thought maybe
Dina
might be the first person to take out a restraining order against another stream, yeah? Like, due to...
Okay, that's your first... Daddy, that's your...
First warning.
First warning, all right, yeah? You tried to take us... By the way, I did actually say, we did get sent through by corporate. Have you done that appropriate behaviour quiz, by the way?
Oh, I couldn't care less. It's like Donald Trump, I'm like the Donald Trump of streaming, got no... But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Actually, if you go right back, can you go right back to the start?
Absolutely, let's go back. Because, Danny, let's stick to some of the chess, because I appreciate, by the way, we know it's a long game, so if people in the chat, if you do feel we're going a little bit slowly for your liking, we won't necessarily change our dynamics. But bearing in mind it is a long game, we will try and get Danny's knowledge. Sicilian, fantastic grandmaster, Sicilian player. And Danny, what would you like to say about this then?
Yeah, just to say, right, there's a line in the closed Sicilian. So if you put these moves out on the board, knight c3, knight c6, right? g3, g6, bishop g2, bishop g7, d3, d6, I believe, like bishop e3, rook b8. Now let's say white goes knight e2, knight ge2, right? Knight d4, castles, h. Is it? Hang on a minute, I've got the moves right. Yeah, let's say queen d2, right? Queen d2.
Instead of castles, do you mean by white? It's black's move.
No, let's say I go b5 here, right? I'm not sure exactly about this line actually, but queen d2 now, right? h5. I've had this h3. So okay, black to play can now play bishop takes h3. I've had this before many times.
Oh wow, of course, just because boom, yeah. So you've got to be careful as well. Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to go h3, of course. You could allow h4, or you could play h4 yourself. But I had this against Susan Lanich in Guernsey in about 1999 or something like that. It was a long time ago. Bishop takes h3 was played. So he missed bishop takes h3, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So he took on d4.
With what? With can
bishop. I ask? I took back with the pawn. Bishop h3 was played. I took on c3, so took back the b pawn. Now black in his position has a good position. Got the dark squares. Potentially can go b4 later on.
Maybe h4 at some point, maybe Danny.
Yeah, but then later on, he completely outplayed me, and I ended up losing, and that was a painful loss for me because that was the final round.
It often feels, Danny, when you're telling some of your stories, and I love the fact that you're not one of these people who says, "Oh, just let me tell you the story about when I won this and I won that," because that life's. You've had your successes, we all know that, but life's just, you're going to have some defeats, aren't you? Even you're going to have some defeats.
Going back to golf again, I was watching this interview with Bryson DeChambeau, and he said one thing he's found is the only thing consistent about life is inconsistency. Which I thought was a very good statement.
A very good paradox.
Very good quote. Yeah, it's a very good quote because it's very true. And Simon's a good example of that. Is that he kind of
very much so.
embraces chaos in life and in chess, and enjoys complexity. And yeah.
By the way, Danny, thanks for showing this live, because Kingslayer Sloan first, who was responsible for the raid, thank you for that. Yeah. He just needs to push Harry, so this would be very much in Simon's broad wheelhouse, wouldn't it? This type of idea.
But the problem is now, if you go h4, they go g4, so it's actually not that easy to gain it.
Okay.
Yeah, Black has a good position here. I can't remember exactly what you play, but I got outplayed later on and lost.
So, Dan, if we go back to the position, maybe you can. It'd be really helpful if you could talk us through some of the. Well, I appreciate you said about you might like to fianchetto your queenside bishop, but it's gone knight c6 solid, bishop g2. They've both fianchetted their kingside bishops. It's gone bishop e3, d6, and now white's played f4. Can you talk us through some of the, even if you wouldn't have approached this position exactly as Simon has done, can you talk us through some of the ideas, some of the things that you're looking at from black and white's perspective?
I think from white's, normally they go f4 because it's a prelude to a later kingside pawn storm. So, for example, if you play something like knight f6, they would probably, they could even go h3 here actually. And then if you castle, they might put the knight on e2 and then try and castle kingside, and then play
castle kingside.
Yeah, or of course they could play g4, or as you probably about to suggest, they could go queen d2 and g4, and maybe even not even. Generally, in the close Sicilian, white always castles on the king's side. Not always, but you know. But of course, once you played f4, that does rule out the possibility of playing queen d2 and bishop h6, which is one of white's main strategic weapons in the close Sicilian. But yeah, so it's a different strategy. Effectively, you are declaring that you're going to probably eventually play g4, and very difficult for black to create counterplay then, because let's say white would eventually play g4, and you know, knight g3, very obvious how he's going to get an attack, like g5, f5. I've lost to this kind of attack many times online.
Mac Eligots, I don't know if that's correct, saying hopefully the Bunratty Chess Weekend will return in February 2024. Simon Williams and Nigel Short regularly play there. Is that true, Danny?
Yeah, I've played there many times. Yeah, no, Nigel is a very good friend. No, I have actually played Bunratty myself. It's a beautiful place.
And it begins. Nice to see Nigel Short commentating with Blair today. So it begins.
It's
pleasure to have you here, Nigel.
There's Shannon. There's the River Shannon, which I think is the longest river in Ireland, if my geography is correct.
That is correct, yeah.
And so that's on the, I believe that's in the southwestern area of Ireland. But
broadly speaking, it's on the west coast. But broadly speaking, it's southwest. I mean, there's a lot more southwestern Ireland still to come after Shannon.
My dad's side of the family are kind of like from the west side. I think they're from somewhere like County Mayo originally, but I'm not too familiar with the history. But my dad's side of the family is from Ireland. But yeah, I mean, so how does black respond? Yeah, very.
By the way, Simon's played e6 here, and I think that the idea behind that, Dan, if I'm not mistaken, is as we'll see in the next couple of moves, the black knight from g8 come to e7. At least that gives a lot better control over that potential f5 push by white.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Joe Gallagher wrote a very good book on the anti-Sicilians, and he effectively nullified all of white's systems. And generally speaking, when white pushes on the king's side, it's a very good idea to throw in the move f5 at some point.
Sorry, it's black, or
yeah, I was even wondering whether f5 was even a move on the last move. That's probably too radical, right? Probably too radical.
Well, let's just move on a couple of moves. The live position was knight f3, knight g to e7. Sure. You're saying to us that there is some possibilities or some ideas of sort of like stopping white in the tracks of like this potential pawn sacrifice to blow things open by playing f5 yourself as black. Is that right? I didn't know that, by the way.
That's right, yeah, because white would want to go g. If white goes g4 later on, let's say you castle and white plays g4, probably f5 by black would be a good response, because then
you mean casting by black on the king's side, of course, yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering here whether white is starting to think about maybe just playing the move d4 here, and saying, look, your move a6 isn't really helping you much. I'll just go d4, blow up the center, and then you got weakness on d6.
Let's go through that now, Danny. So you're saying white could play a sort of delay, well, you know, a d6 move, d4 move here.
That's right.
And so let's just takes, for example.
I'll take with a 9.
Of course. And then you're saying, look, I've got this lovely centre. You've wasted a little bit of time with this slightly irrelevant move a6. Okay, it covers the b5 square, but it's not. It's starting to look quite interesting for white here, isn't it? The pawn on d6 looks a little bit loose or a little bit tender, as they say.
Yeah, tender as the knight, you know, by F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Didn't you do a song about tender something?
Well, I could sing "Tender" that's a song as well. "Tender as the Night."
What is it? What is your Elvis song? Didn't he do a song with tender in the? Or am I thinking about someone else?
No, "Love Me Tender."
Oh, that's it. Quick blast, just give us.
It's now "Love Me Tinder."
Oh, is it?
But maybe knight a5's a move here. It looks ridiculous, but you're eyeing up this weak c4 square. And if b3 is slightly weak on the diagonal, maybe e5 is a good response. Yeah, I mean, actually a6 does make sense here because it prevents knight b5, which would be a good move by white if black hadn't played a6. So I think actually, yeah, Simon generally well prepared. I wouldn't know what to do against the system with black, but Simon's a massive workhorse. Massive work.
Well, yes, absolutely. He's probably been down. He's a man of fitness. He's probably been down the gym for at least an hour or two. Not dissimilar to yourself, Danny.
Well, I went down the gym earlier, believe it or not. I know that's hard to believe, but I actually...
What, to watch some sort of Zumba class?
I had my binoculars out and
and that, Danny, is your second warning. Let us keep it on the chest. By the way, I have been, as I said, I have been contacted by corporate about we've only got. They said, look, Blair, you've done a pretty good job of like trying to restrain what is clearly a recalcitrant beast in Danny Gormally. You know, please don't invite back for round 9. However, Danny, I was having none of it. I've said, look, if it's Blair's show, well, it's not really, but I've said there's no one else I want. It's Danny Gormally, or I'm not doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I am the.
You're the big draw card.
Yeah, I'm the pulling. I've got the pulling power. But yeah, I feel like knight a5. I mean, I don't know if someone prepared this, but this looks. Yeah, the more I look at it, maybe d4 isn't the answer. So how does?
Well, anyway, certainly David's played certainly I'd say more conservative or certainly far less committal. By the way, we'll humour him, even though he's the student of David, and obviously he's made his allegiance very well known. Coca-Cola Gambiter. What about Queen D2, Danny? Maybe a sort of like an idea to maybe put in black's mind. You're saying that white almost always castles on the king side in these positions. Why is that the case?
Well, generally because people who play the close Sicilian are quite timid players. They don't want to castle queenside and go for some kind of savage. Not I'm saying David is a timid player. I don't think he is. Probably quite a universal player, I would say. Like, you know, he's not particularly got one style or another, but I don't know him that well, but that's the impression I get. But yeah, I think castling, white is generally happy to attack on the king side anyway with g4, but it wants to attack from position of safety. If black castles on the queen side, we're already set up for an attack potentially with b5, b4. So
let's just go back. So you're saying, for example, if white were to play queen e2, you made this point. In contrast to that modern game which Simon played the other day, we've already got this pawn on c5, haven't we, Danny? Which is quite a good, much better sort of launching pad.
And the thing is,
sort of like
there's lots of lines where you castle queenside and you go for these kind of like funky attacks. And one of the things I noticed these days is whenever you analyze or play like training games against computer, and you go for these kind of like slightly unsound, attacks where you castle queenside. The computer just manages to destroy you with a counter attack on the queen side. It's very, very effective. So
by the way, Danny, in terms of like training on computers, I don't know if you've heard this. I keep giving a massive shout out to Matthew Sadler's YouTube channel Silicon Road. He does something he plays against LC0 Leela on what's called one node. So Leela, do you know this? Leela doesn't calculate anything. It only plays on on what its evaluation is.
It doesn't calculate
any lines. Nothing.
They must calculate something, sure.
No, it literally, the next move it plays is all based on its evaluation of that position and the next position. It doesn't calculate. And do you know how strong it is, Daddy?
It sounds a bit like Keith Arkle again. It just doesn't calculate anything, you know.
Daddy, by the way, Leela literally working on the base of its godlike evaluation system is about 2550 with zero calculation, honestly.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it's about 35.
No, Danny. Danny will make mistakes in terms of tactics because it's not. Sometimes it will miss something 4 moves ahead, 5 moves ahead. You know?
Oh, so that's interesting. There's zero calculation, right?
Zero calculation. Honestly, it's 25.
I knew that this Leela was based on some kind of artificial intelligence, where it's
a sort of like it's a sort of like open source.
Yeah.
After Alpha Zero type thing, it's a similar sort of concept.
Yeah, and then its next stage is Skynet, and then full. I've launched my missiles. Skynet launched its missiles against its targets in Russia, expecting a full response. So I'm done. I should do some impressions. So I've done the singing. Let's do some impressions.
I was actually going to say, Daddy, just before you start, could you just talk to us a little bit about the position? I'm just going to get a little bit refill of coffee. It's I've had to change my sort of patterns because it's we're starting obviously in the final round,
sure.
11 o'clock Iceland time. So I'll be back, Danny. And just should we just take a 2-minute break?
Yeah, I need a pee.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. But make sure you don't get blindfolded by your captors again. We'll be back in just 2 minutes. Honestly, we won't be long. I'm not going to put a holding screen up. I know it looks a bit odd to have neither of the presenters here with you, but we're just going to take literally a 2-minute break. We'll be back. We'll leave the live bot open as Simon has responded by the quite natural and most understandable castles kingside. So if you just catch up soon. So we're looking at knight b6. Apparently this was the way for white, the best way for white to proceed. Even so, it still looks messy. Knight takes c2. Can you see that position, Danny?
Yeah.
Just to make sure, double check everything's back. Good, thank you.
Yeah, I think the reason why White rejected it was because there's so many different possibilities that he has to calculate. Like you said, knight c2, e2 check. You have to calculate bishop b.
But by the way, Danny, you're absolutely spot on. Apparently, knight takes c8 with potential of e2 here, and it's getting crazy messy.
Yeah. I mean, the computer is probably saying that White's ahead, but.
I think the computer might be saying there's nothing. This is where white can also go wrong. So we were kind of like, I was very critical of Simon's approach to this whole game, and it turns out he's probably going to do what he. Doesn't mean it justifies the outcome, you know.
Yeah.
Decisions, not results.
It just encourages addiction to pawn sacrifices.
Yeah. Go back. So let's catch up the live game. And so after bishop takes c5, Simon makes it as tricky as ever. Knight b4, king h1, bishop f5. I thought was a fantastic move by Simon. Of course, just continuing like this knight now looks a bit trapped. Temporarily, it was saved by David with knight c7, but of course, it's not actually saved because rook c8 happened here.
Oh.
A3 attacking the knight on b4. It's getting crazier by the second, and I believe knight takes c2 came in, and David did indeed bring his knight back to d5. So he's had to give up an exchange, give back an exchange effectively.
Yes.
It'd be amazing if Simon doesn't take on e1. But knowing Simon, it wouldn't be amazing, will it, Danny?
Well, no, at all. I mean, given what
he doesn't want to take any. He never wants to take any material. He needs to go down
further. It'd be more
material,
amazing if he did take on e1. But actually, I think I saw this slide earlier when I was checking the chess 24, and the best move, of course, is you take on e1, you take on a3. And although White's better there, you've clearly got very good comp. But then that's kind of a clear line, right? Because you definitely know that White must be better. I mean, you can't possibly argue that the two. I mean, although they're very strong, the two connected pass pawns are completely sufficient compensation. So that's more of a clarified line, right?
Absolutely right, Danny, of course.
So I think Simon would be reluctant to go. He will be looking for ways to avoid that if he can. Although you could play this line. I mean, this is like a backup variation.
But Danny, could we play this line and sort of retain our pawn on e3 in any way whatsoever? So like we let's not get too crazy, of course. the joking of like, surely he'll take on E1, ha ha. Well, maybe not. But maybe we can. Is there any way we can keep our pawn on E3, or is that not going to happen?
I think it's very important that you get these two connectors, I guess. But yeah, I mean, but how? You can't go rook.
No, exactly. Yeah.
6 and.
Yeah, of course. So I can't go red. Danny points out, sharp as ever. Rook E8 wouldn't work. Knight F6, and that's a handshake.
Exactly.
What move are we on now? By the way, the live board is White's just played move 24. They've both got a roughly just over 20 minutes left each, 30-second increment, of course. The worst is not the worst. Sorry, that's stupid. The chances of Simons are a lot better than they were a few moves ago, Danny. Yeah.
Absolutely, but only maybe if you. I mean, the problem is I don't see another particularly productive move if you don't take the rook.
No, I think he's got to take. I just wonder what he's thinking about, but I think he's definitely going to take the rook.
But
I think he's maybe thinking about. He's always thinking about various options, isn't he? But maybe thinking about how to maybe follow up as well, like what's the outcome?
Really thinking about not taking a rook, yeah.
Well, he must be, because otherwise he'd have done it already, wouldn't he? I mean, I suppose by definition.
I mean, let me know if the dog's barking gets too annoying, by the way.
Not at all, not at all. It's fine, but I will let you know. Thanks very much.
Because he does.
Well, thank you very much for everyone staying with us through those technical issues, which were very disappointing. But we are back, and thank you very much for not abandoning us. Is Simon winning? No, Simon's definitely worse, but he's got a lot. He's definitely got some notable, clear compensation. Let's look at the line which Danny was talking about. Knight takes, rook recaptures, bishop takes A3. Big shout out to whoever, I can't remember who it was, who said in the chat when I asked for reasons to be somewhat hopeful of a turnaround if we're supporting Simon, or certainly looking for ways in which Black can say, is there any chance of there being a queenside majority? So I can't remember who said that, but if you're still with us, fantastic shout out. This is exactly giving some serious. In this position, White will take the pawn on E3. Let's just say Knight takes. And if we do a quick material count here, White does have an extra piece. Black has a bishop pair and 2 extra pawns, connected past pawns on the queen side. Danny, I'd actually almost fancy being Black here. Almost. I appreciate a computer will probably tell us that White's fine. And I know those pawns are a long way.
I agree with you. There's a lot of danger for White as well, because if those pawns really start going, I mean, it's serious. You know, there's some serious calculation that would need to be done here.
Obviously, says Black. We're definitely never going to allow the exchange of knight for bishop, particularly on F5. We really need to keep our bishop pair. Black's compensation here is connected twofold. Primarily the 2 connected past pawns on the queen side, but in combination with the activity and the bishop pair. That's where Black's compensation.
Black would be, idea would be to push the pawns to the extent where White would either be forced to give back some material, or would just be losing. I mean, you know, if you could get B5, B4, A5, bishop B2, A4 in without anything nasty happening, you're going to be winning, right? But the problem is that White has a number of moves in the meantime. He's probably going to activate the knight by, well, first you threaten to take on F5, so you have to move the bishop.
I guess the situation here, for example, Danny, is also like if you play bishop b6, for example, then knight d4.
Knight d4
does a couple of jobs because it, like, you know, I think, is it fair to say, Danny, that White would in principle dearly love to exchange a knight for a bishop?
I think here, because, you know, the more the pieces exchange, the more your extra piece is going to tell. So, like, bishop d7 makes more sense, but still knight d4 might be a reply, because I'm still threatening to take on b7. And if you go b5, then maybe I'll start to get very active. So White should try and use this extra.
Danny, what about after bishop d7? Do we not run into the same sort of idea, just in a different way?
Oh, knight e5 is absolutely right. He hasn't taken on e1, I don't think. Or maybe he has.
No, you're joking.
He hasn't taken on e1, yeah.
Well, I mean, do you know what? When I say you're joking, I mean, it was almost ridiculous to suggest he was going to take on e1, isn't it?
What has he played?
Rook d8.
Oh my god.
Does that even...
But actually, no, that makes some sense, right?
Does it? Is it okay? I mean, maybe it's okay, I don't know.
But I mean, yeah, he's doing his best to create as many problems for White as possible. But the problem is that a lot of White's,
is he overdoing it again, you know?
A lot of White's moves are kind of forced. So he's kind of forced to make these good moves. And
But maybe he could still take on E1 in a minute.
Well, this does make some sense, Blair, because
okay,
you're threatening to, you're threatening to take on D5, and if you move the rook to say C1, then I just take on D5. I shouldn't have any problems. In fact, I'll probably be winning then. Although maybe there's a knight H4, but I doubt it. I don't think you can play like that.
I agree with Victor here, by the way. Rook EG1, I don't know what the evaluation would be, but this might be critical because it's like, well, just because I know this looks incredibly scary, but if we could we might end up a rook up. Why not just like say, look, you give me a chance to preserve my rook.
E1, and the idea is if you go E2, there's a knight F6 and rook D8 hanging, which is just probably going to be game over. So I think after rook E1, Simon's planning King G7.
Stepping out of that, so very importantly, as Danny pointed out, stepping out of this tactic, knight to F6, which would win the rook on D8. Nothing's clear though, is it, Danny? I mean, but white does seem to be, unlike the previous opportunity, be a rook up. I appreciate you can see that yourself.
No, I mean, I think you've already established in this game. Simon's just trying to be too creative, isn't it?
It's too much. But then again, it's round 9, so I will actually forgive him. Or as I said earlier, Danny, which seemed to tickle you a little bit, he wants to hit absolute rock bottom before he's got to force his own hand into committing to your clinic.
That's it. We might, as you say, might have to do an intervention. Might be a case of send round the same captors that I have here.
Yeah. Well, they seem to be very effective at keeping you under wraps.
Get the bag over his head and just take him out to an unknown location. To take away all his technology. No mobile phones allowed.
And he's only allowed to play chess without sacrifice. And someone was saying in the chat earlier, a film that you'll be very aware of, like a Clockwork Orange experience, where maybe he gets he has to watch like Karpov play like these positional masterpieces all day.
Well, but I mean, I've seen him play that kind of chess anyway. He doesn't. I mean, it's not like every single game he plays like this. But I think sometimes it's also based on your experiences in life. Like if you've been going clubbing or you've been going drinking, you're kind of a bit more jazzed up. On edge. Or if you've been having I mean, maybe Simon's having too much coffee, right?
He can't have played what he played here, surely. Well, he obviously played what he played here.
What did he play?
Well, it looks like he's played knight G1. I mean, what's the obsession with his opponents putting minor pieces on G1?
I mean, that's probably one of the most horrific moves I've ever seen.
Well, Bishop G1 the other day. I mean, JT Chess Patser's refusing to come back on stream to watch any more pieces, just as he's recovered from from Andre's Bishop G1. Yeah. We're now seeing David playing. David looks a bit rattled all of a sudden. I think he was feeling really comfortable, and a couple of inaccuracies, especially against Simon. Exactly. Is G1 a magnetic square?
I don't get that
in this board,
because now you're probably getting a better version if you take on E1. But we've already established Simon's never going to take any material.
No, absolutely not. So maybe David's worked this out. He's got a free reign. He can do what he likes because he knows that he'd keep that rook on that square E1 forever, basically. I mean,
I think Simon's doing it on purpose. I think he heard my comments the other day.
By the way, David can even consider a move like Bishop E4 because that's never going to get taken, is it?
Yeah, I think there are limits. I think he probably would.
Okay.
But yeah,
might take that one.
Yeah, but I can understand it as well that Simon's reluctant to do this because, as I said before, you basically clarify the position to one where you are then struggling to draw. Whereas if you keep like the tension with this move, Rook D8, which I'll be honest, I wouldn't have played myself because I'm thinking like Rook D1, King G7. There was also Knight E3 there, and then Knight takes E3, Rook D8, Bishop B1, which was very a position where only white could win.
So let's just confirm this because it's very interesting. Why? Maybe of course David wants more, but he could have gone. You're saying in the previous position, where
I didn't see Rook D1. I didn't see Rook D1 initially. I must admit.
And so you're saying after King G7, White might have some safe options. For example, just like we were saying, like taking on E3 might be a very comfortable way to really irritate Simon, basically saying, I'm the only one who's playing for a win. I'll give you back a little bit of material. There may be a better move, but I'm going to play a move with a solid advantage for White. And remove your fun.
Absolutely.
Get your fun out of the way. Stop your fun.
It's a party pooper move. There's absolutely no way that... I mean, in fact, you know, after 93 rook d8 bishop b1, I mean, I think you're struggling there because moves like 95 are coming in.
Also, Danny, it's brilliant game theory by you to like suck all the wind out of Simon's aggressive sails, complicating sails. You know what I mean? Those sails
yeah, I mean, I've played Simon
half mast.
I've played Simon a lot of times in the past, and actually more recently, he's done much better against me. I think he's worked out, you know, better ways to play against me. In fact, one of the games he beat me at Hastings. He didn't do any sacrifices, really, or maybe there was a sacrifice towards the end of the game, but I remember in the past, I did. Yeah, I would often run into this attack by Simon, and I would somehow refute it with, like, you know, some kind of counter sacrifice. That is always a danger that the sacrificial player has. That you could take, as you say, you could take the wind out of their sails.
You could give back a little bit of material just to, like, real spoiler, isn't it? Like what they really hate.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
Don't be greedy. Give back a little bit of material. Just like deflate them.
Yeah, but also this, actually, the more I look at this knight g1, the more it doesn't look that bad, because the point is after knight e3, rook e3, bishop a3, I'm suddenly noticing you have rook e3 and there's a knight e7 tactic getting rid of one of the bishops.
Simon's played King G7, by the way. I don't know whether that's good or not.
Yeah, I mean, based on what we already know, it's not very surprising, but it is getting into the territory now of this is just a complete punt, and probably not in a great way either. And I think rook e d1, which we already established, is probably not that bad here. But maybe you're a bit concerned the knight's going to move and hit. The bishop will hit b1, so
like, as I was a bit critical immediately of the visual impression of knight g1, but the big benefit of this is now if we played a move like rook e to d1, we've got that knight in position where that pawn cannot advance to e2 without being taken. So
yeah, I mean, there's also rook e c1, bishop takes a3, that variation. Then you could take on c2 and take on b7, and then you're ready to take on e3 at the end. But I don't know about that, because then black could play bishop, maybe, yeah, and then rook takes b7, because you've got the pawn under lock and key with this knight g1 move. Although the bishop g1 was very bad in the other game, I think White is safe enough here that knight g1 is, although probably not, you know, not at all optimal, is not a bad move.
Maybe it is a very decent move.
I'm not sure about very decent, but probably not losing, right?
So we go back to the live position here. Simon's gone. The key move that we're thinking about from White's perspective is this move, rook e to d1. When the only issue with, I think, White playing rook e to d1, Danny, is that none of his pieces are now hanging. Yeah. And that's going to put Simon in his comfort zone, isn't it?
Well, I think so. Simon, he's looking a bit nervy though to me on the stream. He's looking a bit twitchy.
I agree. Simon's going to have to find another way to hang some sort of material or get further down in material. Obviously, I'm being somewhat irreverent here.
But he also, does look. He looks very focused, but he also looks very unsure about himself. He doesn't look confident. I don't think.
Can I just look through? Why did Simon not just take the bloody rook on e1?
Well,
I'm missing something.
I think you've already answered your question, Benny.
I have actually.
It's pointless to even discuss.
Okay.
He just doesn't want to. Like take material. So
he just doesn't want to play sensible moves like almost ever, does he? It's almost like he's now memeing himself, isn't he? He's like sort of trolling himself. Like I'm just not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it.
But the thing is, as I already mentioned, this is a kind of admission of failure if you do this, because then the position becomes clarified. White.
Yeah, but the idea behind it, by the way, I agree that from a commentating on Simon's specific game here, we're kind of going up a dead end, because even if it's the best move or not, he didn't play it and he wasn't going to play it. But like, you know, but maybe the reason I want to do it now is because, as you said, Danny, it's a better version of taking the E1 rook earlier. But that's irrelevant anyway, because he's just not going to. He's not going to do this.
I'm starting to realise Simon's style now. It's just like he just loves posing problems to his opponent. He just doesn't like giving them an easy way out. Actually, I read something interesting yesterday, and it was about this famous blitz match between Nakamura and Magnus Carlsen, where Magnus, I think they both had a disappointing rapid and blitz. This is going back many years, right, when they're both like pretty young. And so playing in the World Rapid and Blitz Championships. And on the Sunday evening, Carlsen made this suggestion that maybe they should play a match, right? And they were going to play maybe I'll play 100 games against Naka. Well, in the end, they ended up playing I don't know, it was 40 games or something, but they played till 4 in the morning. And Nakamura said this was a big mistake because he said that Carlsen understood his style much better after that match and kind of got a hold of him basically, and understood that Nakamura likes to play these suboptimal lines with black, and and that gave him so basically before that match Nakamura had a reasonable score against Magnus in classical chess. After that match he would just get hammered every game. So yeah, I think sometimes you have to see somebody in action to really understand their style, and I'm kind of seeing with Simon that he just loves posing problems. He just doesn't like clarification. He likes murkiness. He likes mess. He likes chaos. He does not like clarification. I think it's not even about sacrificing materials. I think he just likes positions where the evaluation's unclear. He'd rather have a position where the evaluation's unclear than a position where he's just clearly better or clearly winning, I think.
Do you think he's uncomfortable with clarity?
I think that's it. Yeah, I think it's like the opposite of some players who just love clarity. I mean, Bobby Fischer was famous for. Yeah, they played it. Often you play these top guys. They played I played Geary in a game online. You remember one of these kind of lockdown blitz things? I think it was even the John Naylor Memorial Blitz. So you probably played in that yourself.
No, I certainly did play. No, I don't. I was probably drunk at the time.
Yeah, and I played Geary, and I just remember that game because it was he played a black side of Benoni, and he just goes Bishop G4, exchanges a bishop on F3. He just plays every move. It's with an iron hand, it's like a strategical plan.
Danny, can I just chip in there with it? I was at the London Classic a number of years ago, and Geary was playing in the big tournament, and I sort of went up to him and said, I was in the. Do you mind having a quick blitz game? He was very polite. He said, I really can't do that. If I play you, everyone's going to say. He just finished his 5-hour game as well. He said, if I play you, everyone's going to want to play me. We'll never get out of here. I went. We're in the sort of the sort of the secret room, and so there were a load of people milling around. And I went, we'll sneak one in quickly, Anish. We'll sneak one in. And he went, go on then. Anyway, he drew white pieces. He went D4, D5, C4, C6, Knight C3, E5. The winner were counter gambit. He just took on.
You were black.
Yeah, he just took on E5 and just held the pawn and crushed me.
Yeah.
And the game only it was not fortunate. The game only lasted 3 minutes. He was very polite, played me the game. Can't believe he did this, by the way. What a gentleman! I shook his hand. It was just it was almost no. He was polite, but obviously he just crushed me, Danny. It was just nothing.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah. No, Geary's he won Viscount's Hay actually earlier in the year. I mean, he's obviously
very quick, Danny, before it runs out, one of our dual commentators' votes going on the result of this game. The poll is up, by the way. What are we rating for, Danny? I fancy going for a draw, by the way, ridiculously.
Not anymore. I think you'd have to say Simon's. Unfortunately, I think Simon's favoured to go down now. I think he's taken.
So we wanted to go for white win.
I would have gone for a black win. I think if Simon played a sensible game here, he would have won easily.
So should we cast our vote white win?
But I think I'll go for a white win now because I think it's looking very unpleasant for what.
By the way, I think it's going to be a draw somehow. But there we go. I know that sounds like the most ridiculous thing ever.
I mean, is Knight D4 a move here and then take on E2? I mean.
Well, you can't. You can never take on E2, can you? Because obviously that gains some pieces back.
But... Oh yeah. But my plan was to go Bishop D3 at the end of it. And that doesn't seem to be enough. But I mean,
you're only a piece down, right? Rook b7. So rook takes b7, let's say.
Yeah.
Maybe there's other moves like rook c1. I don't know. Or rook c1, bishop a3.
But then, I mean, your bishop d3 idea looks very tempting here because well, obviously we have to. I know we keep joking about this, but take, and now bishop d3 suddenly looks a bit tricky for white, doesn't it?
Yeah, possibly. But the problem is you have lost this potential 2 connected passports on the king side, which is a big deal.
Yeah, but now we're kind of banking on our e-pawns, so we've got to trade one
but can I just
advantage for
simply
another.
go? Yeah, I feel like this is the best practical chance Black has.
This looks pretty dangerous for white, though, doesn't it?
It does.
So dangerous, like white could be needs to be a bit, but suddenly I appreciate the value of the 2 connected passed pawns on the queen side, but what's white even going to do here?
But also, yeah, I've suddenly realised a problem for white, because if you bring the knight on d5 back to c3, I go bishop takes e2 and rook d1, and then you can't go your lovely knight g1 move again because I just go e2 or even rook g1 and e2 and it's game over.
By the way, Danny, this is brilliant. Do you know what the result of the poll was?
What's that?
A 3-way tie.
Right.
That's brilliant. I love it, by the way. I actually don't think that's ridiculous, by the way, Danny. I think this could actually be a draw, not because I know Simon's going to keep rolling the dice, but I think it could be a draw for the reasons we kind of said earlier, that David might find a way of like, he was doing very well. He looked like a man who knew he was doing very well. He might now start to see some issues, and therefore he might find one of these bailout lines, where he might realise he can keep playing and roll a dice.
But this isn't a bailout line. So what has Simon done?
Well, probably nothing sensible.
I think he's just gone knight. He has gone knight d4. Yeah, I feel like.
Well, that obviously I think is the best move.
We might see this line with the bishop d3, right?
By the way, I think that we might do, but I mean, I'm not sure what. I'll tell you what I think is going to happen, Danny.
Yeah.
And it's going to go exactly this way. I think it could be a draw. Rook takes, knight takes, knight takes, bishop d3, bishop f3.
Right.
And then just like bailing out. So I understand.
But
Simon might be reluctant to take it.
Bail out. I mean, is this definitely a bailout? Because if I'm not going rook d2 at the end, I know you have bishop c4, but can I not take and go rook d5? Isn't that a serious?
So the reason I appreciate I was giving up the piece, by the way, if people are worried about what I'm doing. You want to go here?
But you do have bishop c4 actually.
Hold on, what's the pawn count here? So hold on. What if I just support my bishop on? Oh, this okay. It's not a great bailout. Okay.
Yeah, I mean that would be really feeble. I mean,
this in fact maybe I have to go here and here, Danny. Almost.
Can't I go rook b2 after bishop d3? I mean, let's think about more sensible moves because I feel like that's ridiculous. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I mean, it's actually that position is not that easy to win, right? Yeah, what you said.
Okay, but that's. I was just giving an example of why I don't think this will happen actually because. I don't think. I mean, David's clearly aware that he's less comfortable than he was a number of moves ago, but still, he's not necessarily the point.
Judging by the body language of both players, they're really, really intense. They're really, really into this game. I don't really feel like this is. By the way, this is an all ginger clash. I think.
We were saying this earlier, actually. By the way, just to let people know, we are. I still haven't. Next year, if I'm invited back, we've got 14 moves each to go to time control. Both players have the same amount of time, 12 minutes and 34 seconds.
Is it possible that white could go rook c1 here, and then after...
Absolutely.
After bishop a3, you go rook c3, knight e2, rook takes a3, something stupid like this. I don't know.
So rook c3 here, yeah?
Maybe you could play...
I think it's a very, very eminently sensible idea, Danny. It looks to my eye.
Because after knight e2, you could consider either taking on a3 or just taking back on e2.
Danny, apparently Moobot's saying I don't look professional today. Disgust me. Someone banned that Moobot. Anyway, sorry.
But yeah, I mean, I know what you mean. I wouldn't be totally surprised either if he somehow, this is often what happens, that people get a little bit nervy and have a choice between going for a slightly murky line where they could lose, or there's a slight risk they could lose, because once you lose your nerve, it's like, you go for that line where there's a slight risk you could lose, you don't go for it, or you have a choice between, you go for like the line where you can bail out and just make a draw. 99% of the time, once you've lost your nerve.
Yeah, it's very hard to get it back, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because the game is played in real time, isn't it? So it's not like you have that chance to walk away, reset. It's very hard to get your composure back, isn't it?
That's right, and I think to be honest, I have a feeling that Rookie 2 was some kind of mistake. I think it was probably the computer would have said.
Well, also it looks bad as well. The whole idea of from my eyes, not using cliche like deep diving. He has played Rook C1, by the way, which I think is a good move. But playing Knight G1 wasn't the whole idea to stop blockade the pawn on E2 with the knight. I mean, obviously it was, or potentially do that.
Yeah. I think he's.
And by the way, he has played Rook C1, which we believe, Danny, exactly. Great shout again by you.
Well, I think he's basically he got to force Simon at some point to take some of this material.
He's got to take something, hasn't he?
Yeah?
So Danny, you were thinking that the bishop on C5 is attacked. It looks natural to take on A3. So basically, what other move is Simon going to play?
Yeah, I mean, he's on to not play Bishop A3. No, I think he will go Bishop A3. But Bishop A3, as we already suggested, White does have a safe option with Rook C3. But then again, you still got the two connected past boards. So,
well, by the way, they're going to exist whatever, aren't they? There's no way now to get rid of them in this situation, is there?
No. That's why White maybe was obviously worried about this Bishop D3 line. I think that's why he didn't take. But he could have taken on B7 and got rid of the previous move, right?
But that also does come with, so that looks a little bit, as I say, it was your shout of Bishop D3, which looks very, at the end of this all, Rook takes B7, taking on E2,
it looks scary,
Bishop D3. Yeah, absolutely, no doubt. It was a great suggestion, by the way. Really accurate
looks
suggestion.
scary. I don't know what.
I think what David played is a better move, certainly from a practical over the board versus Simon's situation. I think Rook takes B7 almost. If we were to slightly, I think Rook C1. By the way, Fisher saying this game is confusing me. Well, I think, Danny, it's fair to say this game's confusing you, isn't it? And me as well, Well, I know it's confusing me.
I was thinking about.
Oh my word, stop press. Bishop takes A3. Mouse slip.
No, but I think that looks like the best move.
No, I just saw from the live video Simon touched the pawn on A3 and didn't say just, so David said, you've got to take it now, mate. You've got to take it.
Yeah, I was thinking earlier that you got certain names for certain games. Like those chess games. There's like the the Immortal game, right? It's like a very famous game between from the 9th century. I think Adolf Anderson was.
Was that the one where he did Rook D8, mate? Or no, was that the one where the two rooks got sacrificed or something?
It's like the Evergreen game. There's the Fisher, the Morphy. Opera game. It's like the opera game by Paul Morphy. It was also very famous. Yeah, that was probably one of the most amazing games ever. The Adolf Anderson game. I love that game when I was younger. It was such a beautiful game. But this could be known as the tragedy in Reykjavik or something.
By the way, I just noticed oh my God, Simon's mouse slipping all over the place. I just noticed that obviously time is now, they're both down approaching 10-minute mark, and we're only on move, 12 moves to play each now. I noticed that David was very quick to take a sip of his water there in terms of his mannerisms were much more sped up. Earlier on, when he felt he was in control, and he probably was correct to think that, he sort of reached down, then he picked up his bottle of water, right. He took a swig like that. Whereas this time he went like this and like that.
I think he'll take on A3 here. I think he'll take on A3 and.
Well, he has taken. Have you not seen the position? I see what you're saying. Do you think he'll play Rook takes A3 here?
Yeah, because after Knight G1, King G1, Bishop E6, Knight.
Sorry, say that, Danny. So if he takes an A3, Knight G1.
Let's say you go Knight
King G1.
King G1.
Mm-hmm.
Like E2 doesn't help because I just go King F2. Like you're not really going anywhere with that board. And if you go Bishop E6, Knight E3, the problem is,
No, you're fine. I've got it, Danny. Don't worry.
Well, bishop e6. You could even maybe take with a rook, because after bishop d5 there was a rook d3 tactic. But I don't think you do that. But the main point is that you don't have b5 here because a6 is hanging, or at least b5 rook a.
So not only is white attacking. This looks problematic for black, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
because if you can't start moving, so basically white is a piece up. If you can't start moving these pawns,
he has taken on a3. Yeah, he's played.
Oh, fantastic move by very strong, nice move by David. Again, showing
and looking at his body language, he now looks very, very happy with developments, David.
Yeah, Simon, I agree. I think it sort of went. He was doing very well. And he's clearly a very experienced player, David. Plays a lot of chess and a lot of decent chess. And he was like, I think he realised he was losing the thread of the position a little bit. Simon could have made some moves like taking on the rook on e1 earlier. Clearly not in his style, and certainly not in his style today. And now David appears, I believe, to have regrouped. And very good thinking there by David, not making just an immediate recapture. It's interesting now, isn't it, Danny? He's thought about it. And of course, the other thing about this is, even though he's eliminated the bishop pair, and I think that in this wide open position, eliminating the bishop pair is going to make his life a lot easier, isn't it?
Yeah, because I think as a chess player, you like to. We were talking earlier about whether you go for the safe line, where it's basically going to be a draw, or you go for the murky line where you have some chances of winning. But I think here, White is going for the safe line. He has no chance of losing, but he still has chances of winning. So
that's where absolutely.
So this is really like a beautiful situation for White, because you're playing against a very strong player, Simon, and very unlikely he's going to lose now. Okay, maybe he won't win the game, but I mean Simon's really up against it to try and prove that he's too connected.
And we know that Simon's been so reluctant; he's almost been forced into a situation where he's had to take off the rook, he's had to take off the a3 pawn. He's almost, I know we've been joking about it, but I think we're right to joke about it, Danny, because he's been so reluctant to take off pieces, even if it gives him a slight clawback of material. David's found a way of basically forcing him to do it.
Positions where he's slightly worse with no counterplay. Rather have a position where he's losing.
You called it yourself, Danny. He wants to create problems for his opponent.
He likes to create problems for his opponent, and he likes to, he doesn't like positions where he's slightly worse. Some people can very easily tolerate this. Like I was saying on another stream, there's certain players who think defensively, who are actually very happy to take positions where they quite enjoy it. I think Magnus Carlsen said. In the World Championship, the previous World Championship, when he played against Nepomniachtchi, and he said something like Karyakin, he actually quite enjoys, defending, but I don't think Simon does. That's the problem.
And for Christopher Reed, in a nutshell, hopefully you're listening. We're trying to explain that. Danny was already explaining that, but thank you for always acknowledge first-time chatters. The reason we didn't play knight takes e2 is because exactly what Danny was saying. He wants to make his decisions a little bit easier. Oh, the rook to the bishop, you didn't notice that. But it's actually still a fair question, by the way, Christopher, because eliminating the bishop pair, it makes White's task. Bearing in mind, they have still got 10 moves to play each to the time control. I think David was showing his knowledge and experience there by simplifying the position or making his decision making a bit easier. By the way, I don't know if Simon stepped away from the board and someone else rejoined the board in Simon's place. But he's now taken on G1. He's now. Yeah. It's almost like Simon's. It's almost like.
But I think
he either doesn't exchange any piece or he has to exchange all the pieces.
I think before he had kind of murky options, but there weren't really any murky options left, because if you go knight d4, I just go knight e3.
You're correct.
So it's like you were running out of cleverness.
So knight takes g1, king takes g1. He has gone pawn to e2.
Yeah, that makes some sense. Keep the pawn alive.
King f2 though, is that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of good moves here for White, but King f2 looks the most natural response. But I think
I'll be absolutely shocked. I don't know whether it's the best move or not, but I'll be shocked if he doesn't play King f2.
But I think the idea is Simon is that he wants to go bishop e6 and kick the knight away. And then be able to go rook d2. So, but bishop e6 might run into Yeah, if knight c7 and bishop c4, you keep your hopes alive. And if you go back
I see what you're saying there. Absolutely, yeah.
if you go back to e3, say, or some square I don't know, then there's rook d2. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, knight e3, you have rook d2. I mean, I don't know if that's even any good anyway. But actually, knight e3, rook d2, I have bishop b7. So still not. I mean, you could queen and take on h2 and try to draw that, but
well,
I mean,
let's see what's happening. By
Simon,
the way,
he would rather cut his hands off than.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. It's kind of like David. You know, he had a bit of a wobble, but it was understandable to have a bit of a wobble. It did get a little bit tricky. I was impressed once again.
Yeah.
One thing for damn sure, Simon's got so much experience after speculative moves. He's got so much experience at having to create trouble, hasn't he? Because he's got to.
Well, the very clever trick now, because if knight e3, you go rook d1 and you win the game. Well,
oh, very nice, beautiful, Danny.
well, maybe you don't win the game because there's actually knight c2.
Aha. So the idea being, of course, knight takes bishop, pawn queens, knight takes rook, pawn queens, but knight c2.
Knight c2, and if rook c1, then just knight e1, and then some kind of weird blockade. And
Yep.
you could queen and go rook d2, but then king goes back, say, but not king e3 because of rook e2 check, but I think the king goes back somehow, like to f1 or g1 or something, probably to f1, and then white would gradually consolidate.
Yeah.
So I think that's his idea. Bishop g4, very clever. Yeah, but Simon, he would never take the slightly worse line where he's suffering. He would never. Like, I might try and do that grovel where you give, you try and hold on, but that would probably lose anyway, and you'd be like defending forever. Psychologically, Simon just couldn't tolerate that.
So, by the way, in the live position, absolutely, Danny, I agree with you. Again, what I'm saying, this is what I was saying when we had a bit of internet connection issues. When we got back on live, I was saying I was very impressed with. It's almost given us a template of how to play Simon. Almost play solidly and provoke him, like by playing solidly. It's actually provoke him by playing solidly.
I'll come back to that. But isn't h3 a good move here? Oh, but then
for white here. I mean, by the way, knight e3. I don't think white will play knight e3. By the way, because it's like it might be the best move and the easiest way to win, but it requires this. You might start seeing ghosts of this rook d1. Is h3 a good move? Well, h3 seems perfectly reasonable.
But he would then go back to.
Well, you'll provoke him into doing this, though.
I thought he would go bishop e6 and ask me. That was, go back.
But what about bishop takes h3 here? I don't think Simon would want to play it. Right. Yeah, but I don't think Simon would want to play it, though, Danny. I'm being absolutely serious. There is a degree of like, if my opponent's going to be so hell bent on like. I'm not going to take.
No, actually, h3 is a blunder because.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think he would play that because you still keep your pawns, so I think it'd be very stupid to go h3. But yeah, go back to what you were saying about you're absolutely right. I remember I played Jim Plaskett once.
Give us a little bit of Jim, please.
Have you seen my game against Gormally? That guy's an absolute idiot. Did you see my documentary on my search for the giant octopus? And Basso Profundo. He used to go Basso Profundo. I played this tournament with him in Bermuda. We both played like an island in the North Atlantic. I think it's about a couple of hours outside of New York or something. Like
a lot of people confuse that to be located in the Caribbean or Caribbean. What's the point? And actually, it's not, though, is it?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, it's a British dependency, but a lot of people live there.
Danny, what's the biggest island in the Caribbean?
Cuba.
Oh, never going to catch you out on that one, was I? Bit of classic trivia knowledge there. Need to get out of bed earlier. By the way, people are interested. Danny Gormally actually appeared on a British quiz show, TV quiz show called The Chase.
That's right. But yeah, going back to what I was saying.
Yes, please.
I was playing Jim Plaskett, so I had a really bad record against Jim because he would, we played similar type of chess, but somehow he was always better at it when we played. He was a very dynamic player, very sort of counter-attacking player. Played opens like Benoni, very creative, smart guy, and I always struggled against him. So I played him in his tournament in Islington, and he needed to win every game for the Grand Prix.
And he's played Rookie 3, by the way, just out of interest. So, but please carry on, Danny. Sorry.
It was between him and Mark Hebden for the Grand Prix, and yeah. So I was white, and I played a Torre attack because I knew that at some point Jim wouldn't be able to just tolerate his like a boring position. He would try to do something creative. He would try to sacrifice a piece. And that's exactly what, well, it's not exactly what happened, but he basically at some point he went like H6 and G5, which actually the computer didn't mind when I checked it like years later. But it was like, he's obviously given me very good practical chances because he's weakening his king side. I've got this ultra solid setup. So I think you're right. I think when you're playing against creative players, you just play solid chess. You know, you force them to find that, you know, they're kind of operating in a position then when if they're trying to play creative chess, a much bigger danger.
They can't. Maybe they just can't help themselves. I mean, this is why I think David's choice of the opening here was very well considered. And although Simon had that momentary chance, he would have had to have seen this combination or this Queen B6 at the end of the line. Just the whole approach of David's was very. I don't know how much he considered this sort of like game theory approach to Simon's propensity to go a little bit maverick.
And I think if Simon,
but it seems to me that like the more people do it, it's like a template for how to play Simon now almost.
Quite possibly. And I think if Simon was in better form, he would have found that idea of knight f5.
Okay.
And
we've got to acknowledge as well it is round 9, etc. Sorry, by the way,
Ricky's probably tired. I mean, I don't like the setup of these tournaments now. As I've mentioned before, you know, I think, you know, 2 rounds a day. Okay, this is not so bad because it's 2 rounds a day. There's 2 days of 2 rounds a day. Yeah. There's no rest days anymore in any tournament. You don't have rest days unless you're playing at the highest level.
And like you said, it's for like, but otherwise it's going to be much harder. I was thinking about this as well. What you said, like to condense it into one 7 days. Iceland's not the cheapest place. People taking time off work. It kind of needs. It may not be ideal, but it needs to happen in order to get as many, you know, people there as well. Not everyone's a professional chess player. You know, it's expensive. 7 days, like 5 weekdays off is kind of like a classic thing to take off work. Or if you've got young people to take out there, makes a bit more sense. Thank you very much, Courtchester, for the subscription, by the way.
What is...
Any plans to start streaming again? Especially, I've got to ask you that because Courtchester did subscribe. So it's talking to you, Danny.
Right, yeah. I mean, the problem is I lost my phone. Well, no, actually, what happened was I broke my phone because I got
in a fit of pique.
Yeah, I got angry because I had all these problems with charging it because for some reason it was like you'd had to fiddle around with it, and then one day I just lost it and started smashing it, as you do.
You lost it and then started smashing it.
I lost my temper.
Oh, I see. Sorry. I'm sorry. I
lost my phone. I haven't brought one since. So the problem is to log into Twitch. You got this 2-factor verification or whatever, identification, and you have to, and I didn't get round. Yeah, I should start streaming again because I think I'm quite.
Well, I think Danny, you know that I genuinely enjoy watching you stream. It's because you're one of these guys who actually plays the game and you talk about exactly what you're thinking. You don't back down. You do the 2 things, and I think that's exactly what I love. I genuinely enjoyed watching you stream. When you come live, I listen to you. Like, it amazes me how much you see from a calculating point of view. Anyway, enough compliments and genuine compliments. We need to concentrate on the game. We are up to move 32, and we've got 5 minutes each. So let's focus on the game, Danny.
Could Simon go B5? And I think
let's look at it.
That's what he's played, right?
Well, here, I think that's a lovely idea, B5, he's done it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I wasn't sure why.
I think there still seems to be a pawn on B7. He hasn't played B5. He's played H5. Yay! We've waited all tournament. And finally, in comes H5.
Right, yeah, I don't really understand.
By the way, I don't know what's happened to... Sorry, Dan, I just need to untime someone out. I don't know what's happened, but I can't believe it. Danny, can you just talk a little bit, please?
Yeah,
I need to do some housekeeping.
So I'm wondering about like knight c3, knight e2. I mean, what's the evaluation there? Like, if you just try, maybe that was White's idea with rook e3, which would be sensible. Just grab the pawn, because what White wants to do here is just remove any danger of losing the game.
you know.
Yeah, I agree with you, absolutely, as we talked about.
Yeah, and knight c3. I think Simon kind of, yeah, that's what he's played. Simon has a kind of slightly resigned look on his face. This wasn't what he wanted when he sort of went for all this stuff earlier. Was to get a situation where it looks as if only white is trying to win. But I think now you start pushing, and then when you take on e2, yeah, he's just going to go for it. He's just going to.
So let's just go back 1 second. After rook e3, I agree with you, Danny. b5 looked like the way forward. He played h5.
But knight c3, b5. I mean, these pawns are still, you know, they still got some kind of teeth, right? I mean, this.
They got some legs, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't so clear because knight e2, I go b4. And maybe h3 now is a much more serious move.
I agree with you, Danny. Like,
Yeah,
it's getting these pawns rolling, isn't it? It's quite important.
h3.
So h3 is a very good idea.
But now that the bishop goes back to e6, it's still not 100% clear, right? Maybe his idea is to take with a rook, so that if b4 I go knight a4. Oh, sorry.
Where do you want to put the black square bishop? Sorry, where do you want to put the bishop? Does it matter, really?
Well, I'll probably put it on e6, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. And you want to go rook takes e2, maybe? What about the pawn advancing?
So maybe Simon would reject bishop e6 on the grounds that white would have a sacrifice with rook e6. Doesn't like to allow it.
We might reject on the basis it's far too safe, isn't it? It's defended by pawn and f7, you know. He's played bishop e6, another mouse slip. Simon's come back a completely different player. I don't know what's happened to Simon when he walks away from the board after not taking the rook at e1. He suddenly started exchanging pieces, playing solid moves. And...
Yeah, I mean, this doesn't. I'll be honest with you. This does.
By the way, Danny, we should have voted for a bloody draw. I told you, I was confident. No, I wasn't. Because I think it's going to be a bailout. Simon's going to keep pushing, but I think David's going to find a way of
I think the problem is after rook e2, b4, knight a4. How do you get on with the pawns?
He's taken with the king, by the way. It's quite interesting, isn't it?
No, that's ridiculous.
Is it so bad? Is it so crazy?
Okay, b4 now. Knight a4. I want to play. I want to go knight a4.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but maybe b4's a bit early. But is it, or maybe not? No, it's a perfectly good move, obviously.
Can I go knight a4? But I think Simon will be reasonably. I mean, I could even envisage him winning this game. I know it sounds.
I agree. No, I don't think it sounds ridiculous at all, Danny. It's gone b4, knight a4. So good shout by you.
Yeah. So the idea is you're blockading the pawns, right? And your knight can come back to b2 if need be. So black really needs to come up with something very creative to keep this whole.
I'm not saying b4's a bad move by Simon, but I just don't like it because again it's like this whole concept that it gives, like okay, the knight's obviously not the most active square on the side of the board, but like maybe there was nothing else to do, but it feels like white's comfortably blocking these pawns. I mean, I'm not saying it's not a good move by Simon, but.
Well, I mean, you could have gone bishop c4, king e1, a5, but then maybe bishop f1 was an issue.
Yeah, that's a good point you make, Danny.
I was
thinking about the idea of bishop c4. Just like I didn't really want to allow your knight immediately to go to a4, by the way, but
yeah, I probably.
But I think you're right.
I would have been umming and ahhing between bishop c4 or b4. In fact, a5 was a move there, Blair.
Oh, of course, yeah, a5 might have been a move. Like, taking. I think I like this, Danny, for example, yeah, because obviously, but just if people haven't seen this would have been a very bad idea.
Simon's getting a bit short of time, right? So you're just trying to quickly get moves out.
So let's go to live position. It went h3, bishop e6, king takes e2, b4, knight 4. That is white's 36th move, knight a4, by the way. So they've both got. Simon's got 5. I appreciate Simon's just played. They've both got 4 moves. Simon's gone b3.
Right. Okay. I think he's playing for tricks again, right?
Yeah, he's playing for tricks again. This doesn't work, does it?
Yeah. I mean, it seems a bit of a weird move, b3. I think you're putting the pawn on the opposite square to your bishop. You're reducing the mobility of that bishop. But having said that,
well, by the way, playing for tricks when your opponent does have 4 moves to make till time control, from a strategical point of view, is probably more an appropriate time to do it. Obviously,
yeah, white now has to play very accurate moves. There's lots of choice here. You could go rook c3. You could play knight b2 immediately. You could play. I mean, there's tricks here like knight c5. With the idea of b2, I take on e6 and go rook b3. The problem with knight c5, you have rook b8 immediately.
So knight c5 very close to winning because then I would take on e6 and go, but rook b8 immediately, and then I might have to do something weird like knight e6, bishop e4, b2, bishop back. That's also possible because, but I think after knight e6, bishop e4, you go a5.
So knight 6 takes bishop e4.
Yeah, then you go a5.
a5,
So
yeah.
This line is very close to winning by.
This is tricky, isn't it? This is certainly very tricky from White's perspective because obviously you've got to be very mindful about this pawn.
Yeah, and then you could start coming up your king, but yeah, these pawns start coming. It's a little bit like the variation he had the other day, right? Where, we were talking about the opponent becomes worried about the passed pawns.
So by the way,
He's gone with
this,
which was one of my candidate moves.
He's gone play. Sorry, what? Sorry, I'm trying to keep up.
He's gone
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to keep up. The moves are going to come in shortly. Obviously, they don't come in immediately. This B3, actually, Simon's so tricky, isn't he? It's just incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he always played the tricks, right? But having said that, yeah.
What if I go A5 as Simon here? By the way, just
A5.
get it off a light square.
You know the move I'll be tempted by here would be, yeah, a5 is actually quite good, yeah, because there is counterplay here. There's rook d4. Rook d4 is in the air. Rook d4 is in the air as well. Could I go rook d4 immediately? Is rook d4?
Let's have a look. Attacking the knight. The knight, I guess knight b2 though.
And then I go a5 anyway.
That's but the idea. That's what I wanted. I wanted to kind of like keep this in my pocket to have like immediate a4. And I know I can't have two moves at once.
Yeah, maybe I'm running into a king e3 tempo or something like that.
Yeah, that could be the. Yeah, there you go, Dan. I think it's a good shout. So like, I think that's the idea. I think a5, rook d4 looks very tempting, but a5 with the idea that knight b2 we want to go a4 straight away. King e3 we might be better go a3.
A5, how does White continue? Because you'd love to clarify. You'd love to. I think A5. Though.
Yeah, he's played it.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get optimistic, Danny.
Yeah, I mean, until we get to, I think if White can get to time control and still be better. How many moves has he got?
He's got. By the way, that's just 3 moves each to go. 3 odd minutes left.
If he plays, if his next 3 moves are good, then he'll probably win the game. But equally, he could easily compete.
I think more important if White's next 3 moves are bad. I don't wish him ill, but that might be more like the way because like it's a bit. White's got to probably be a bit. White's got to play accurately here, if you know what I mean. Of course, Black has to respond well, but I think White needs to be a bit careful.
If I go Rook C5 now? After A5, if I go Rook C5.
What if I just go Rook B2, Rook B8?
And then I go Knight B2 now? Oh, you want to go?
Okay.
Oh, maybe this is
I wanna
a
go for it, yeah.
variation.
I want to go. Yeah, there you go, Danny. This example, yeah. I reckon this could happen, and Simon's going to lose the game because he won't be prepared to do this. I think this could happen. A5, Rook C5, and then this is the draw variation, isn't it?
I mean, you could go Rook A5 as well, but after A4, you could go Rook A5 trying to. But then stuff like Rook C8.
This is the live position, by the way. Danny, it wouldn't surprise me if this happens.
Yeah, you called it earlier. It's an amazing call that you called. You could play Knight B2 immediately, also an option. But yeah, it's not so easy for White because, I mean, your extra piece is.
Danny, I don't see him playing Knight B2. Definitely is obviously very interesting, but I think he's gone on the roller coaster. He's paid his fee, and now at that point it comes back to that level where he started off, equality, and I think that's what's maybe going to happen here.
But is that
because he's now down to 2 minutes? He's still got 3 moves to play. He might obviously Dave's a very experienced player. He knows that Knight B2 is an option, but it's a very dangerous option.
Also, is that dead draw because there's some
maybe not.
With Rook B2, King F1, H4 at the end, and Black could still play on. I mean,
Black will still play on. Obviously, he's been here. I mean, even if, unless it's ridiculously like Rook and 2 versus Rook and 2, he knows David's quality. Sure. He won't put him through the rigour with nothing, but he might still be able to like play on a little bit.
Yeah, interesting game. I mean, let's just see what's happening in the other games. Actually, let me just quick.
Well, you could do that. I'm going to absolutely. As there's 3 moves to go, you could do that, Danny.
Neil Gradulus is winning.
Well, unsurprisingly.
And the other game...
It's gone Knight C5, by the way. This looks a bit... Is this a bit risky? Maybe not. Maybe it's okay. Looks a bit risky to me. Well, I want to play rook b8 here. I mean, I'm surprised David's played knight c5, but you know what? All credit to the man. He's here. It's round 9 in the Reykjavik Open. He's got no intention of going quiet.
But this is like
knight
this
c5
is
play.
the variation I said earlier that you could go rook b8 and
Yeah, I think rook b8.
allow knight e6, right? Oh, but
Yeah.
maybe you got a rook c. Ah, right. Yeah, this is very important. You've got a knight e6, and sometimes you can come in round about with rook c7 to a7. So say for example, I could take on e6 here,
Yeah.
and then when you take, I go bishop e4.
Ah, bishop b4, of course.
And when
very
you go
nice.
a4,
Yeah.
I go rook check and rook c7, and it.
Very nice, Danny.
approaching
Lovely.
the pawns.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah.
And that's,
Very nice idea there.
I don't know if that's something like that. It probably won't happen at all because Simon would never take the. He'll never take the. Never allow his bishop to be exchanged.
Is there any way he can like move this? He can't really move the bishop anyway, can he?
B8, so we could.
Yeah, but the problem is you can't move the bishop anyway because the b pawn's dropping. So he's forced to allow this. Yeah. Isn't he?
Yeah. So we could see this
Yeah.
line like rook b8. So now knight e6.
Well, also like 2 moves to go. I'm pretty sure White will get rid of that bishop in short shrift to any surviving on the board.
If he sees.
Well, you wouldn't play knight c5 otherwise, would you? Yeah, of course. It often
This line
comes.
with rook to a7. It's not game over if he finds that line, but it's obvious.
No, I agree. It's not going, but I'm pretty sure by going knight c5, it was quite, he was going to take
This is
the
what
bishop
he
off the
intended.
board.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's seen
exactly,
this
yeah.
line. It's seen this variation.
Yeah. But what's the best move here? It doesn't matter where we go.
Well, you could get a bailout here, rook c7, rook a7, b2, bishop e4. I mean,
Yeah, and then just like go
right?
down to dead draw. This is going to be a draw, Dan, isn't it? This is going to be a draw.
Well, not if you find bishop e4, it isn't.
Well, of course it will.
Why?
I'll go a4,
Rook c7,
king somewhere, king f6.
and then rook a7. Oh, you want to go b2?
I want to go b2 and rook b3 or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, this is the bailout variation. Yeah, because you could also go maybe even b2 and rook.
Let's put those moves on the board. Sorry, Danny, because I struggled to keep up with you. I think I did on this occasion. Well, hey, even after 8 rounds, check rook c7 on the board, by the way.
Yeah, you're right.
So king f6. Let's look at that move, Danny. Let's go through that now. That's, by the way, that's White's 40th move. So even if the clocks don't add the time, White has made the time control. Simon has 1 move to play, and it's not going to be that hard one because king f6. He's not going to get checkmated this. He's going to move his king forward. So that, Danny, we're looking at bishop e4, a4, rook a7, and I was suggesting b2 might be
Yeah.
because my point being I'm threatening to queen, so if you go back with bishop b1, I was thinking I was going to go rook b3 here, by the way,
Yeah.
but maybe I could just go rook b4 and just say, what are you doing, mate?
Because also, if White ever goes g4, try to threaten g5 checkmate, you could always just take and go g5 and just stop that.
So anyway, someone's saying instead of playing, just very quickly, can I play rook b4 here? I guess I can, but maybe just bishop b1 anyway. It's kind of all roads start to lead to Rome, aren't they? Rome in this case being a draw, a peaceful result. King f6 is on the board. We have made the time control.
No, I mean that's
to level it.
a serious suggestion, Blair, because then at least you keep the pawns and
Well, I've got a shout out to A6. Oh, it says my man from welcome A6 and chill.
Simon will play this actually because you can't defend the bishop with the king because I think Fitzsimons by this point is just playing for a draw. Because if
I think it's got to be, hasn't he? I mean, no, it doesn't have to be. Sorry, of course.
I think Simon will try and play this because bishop b1 you go h4 and then you take with a rook and then you've got the free connect. You got free pass pawns. So actually, yeah, only Simon could now win.
Yes, very much. Adam, welcome. What a lovely suggestion. Danny's loving it. A very, very, very strong player from Ireland, Danny. Adam Collins, I believe, is A6 _ chill. With that excellent suggestion. It wasn't my idea, by the way, Danny. I do not ever like to take credit for other people's suggestions.
Sam
Like Red
Collins,
before.
I don't know if he's.
No, it's not Sam Collins. It's Adam. I think it's
but there's also. I know, but.
No, of course.
But it
might not be his name, by the way. It's been a long week by me, so if I misspeak at any point now, I do apologise to anyone.
It's been a long
by the way,
week,
Danny,
it's only going to get longer.
Danny, I'm loving it with you. By the way, we've hit the time control. We could just breathe a little bit now.
Yeah.
I think I would love a brief musical interlude.
Have a little brief Right, I need to go and check on the dog as well.
Okay, I'll have a little break. We have hit the time control here. Will I play Title Tuesday? I'm not title player, so I can't play. Will I cancel my participation? Oh, I'm not a title player, by the way. Are you suggesting I should play on Simon's account, which is completely forbidden, by the way. By the way, chat, if we're still with us, thank you very much for joining us. It's once again been no shortage of drama where the GingerGM is concerned. This game promises to continue a little bit. I suspect David, being the experienced player he is not going to rush out his next move. Very good piece of advice here. You know, he's had that tension, that adrenaline of getting to the move 40. There are a lot of people who make a mistake on move 41. Sometimes they do it because, you're very welcome, sometimes they do it because that adrenaline's sort of like gone a little bit, or the adrenaline's still flowing. But it's David showing his quality, showing his experience here, still considering, he knows he's made the time control, he could have a little reset. As he's having a reset, I'm going to take a small break, couple of minutes. I'll keep the pictures running. I'll try not to kick out the Ethernet cable this time round. As I'm going for a small break, thank you for staying with us, I would ask everyone in the chat to consider the following, please. What song would you like Danny to serenade us with? It is a highlight of my life that I'm streaming with him, that we can hear from the singing Grandmaster, David Gormally. Please consider a few options. They may, Paranoid, there we go, excellent, never time coming the suggestion. I believe that's Radiohead. Is it Paranoid Android? Am I getting a bit silly? By the way, unfortunately, Fishhead, we did have that the other day, so we may not have a repeat of this. Elton John and Simon Williams, Sacrifice. Oh, that's a brilliant idea. Very good. We did have a bit of Elton John, by the way, the other day from Danny Gormally. We did have a bit of Whitney Houston earlier. I'm not saying these are not good suggestions, but Living on a Prayer, I like that. Well, keep these ideas coming. We will scroll back up the chat. Danny, we've got some suggestions. I've sort of outruled Whitney Houston because we had it earlier, Suspicious Minds, right, although it's fantastic. Living on a Prayer, where'd you stand on that one? I don't know if I want to hear you sing that. But
no, I don't really like it. Sorry.
Okay, good.
I don't really like John Bon Jovi.
By the way, a good suggestion from our esteemed German friend, Shaq Profi Not 64, was Sacrifice, because A, it's Elton John, and B, it seems appropriate for Simon.
Oh yeah, good point. Yeah, Sacrifice by Elton John.
Absolutely. By the way, Guns N' Roses, Sweet Child of Mine. Simon Williams is more notorious for doing Guns N' Roses. I don't think Danny would want to step on someone else's.
I saw him once do that in karaoke in Scarborough during the British Championships.
You know there's video footage of this out there, don't you?
Yeah.
It's horrific. I mean, it really is. Like, do you know what I mean? If cats could sing, they'd still kill themselves.
Yeah, it's quite a good song, Sacrifice. They got to number one.
Elton John's only number one in the UK, isn't it? Other than maybe Goodbye, Danny Gormally.
No, you're forgetting a very Candle in the Wind. 1997. That was the biggest selling record.
Yeah, but I did say that, by the way. Goodbye, England's Rose. Yeah.
Goodbye, GingerGM. You know you want to sacrifice all your pieces, but you can't sack them all. You made your time again.
Though it seemed to me you lived your life like a lunatic in Reykjavik.
I'm losing the lyrics to that song.
Well, by the way, Danny, I'm just going to take a step out for a couple of minutes. Please hold the fort.
Yeah.
Can you decide, by the way, when I come back, just to reinvigorate my love for you and my desire, and to mix it up a little bit, I'd love to hear you choose a song which you'd enjoy singing, maybe preferably you sort of know the lyrics to, perhaps. Might help.
So I'm wondering if there's a draw immediately. When Rook C7, B2.
I'm going to just step out. You can keep talking. Is that all right, Dan? I'll be back in like 2-3 minutes.
Yeah, I don't think you should allow this idea of going A4 and Rook B4.
So rook a7. There is b2, bishop e4, rook b4, which I think somebody suggested. Because you can't go bishop c2 because of well, you can, but bishop c2, a4. I think realistically, though, it still should end in a draw. I mean, it must be a draw, this position. But White's clearly bungled it to get this position because he was clearly winning earlier. The dog's gone potty again. He's a 16-year-old Jack Russell. Quite old for a dog. But yeah, they need a lot of attention. Not everybody's a dog person. Simon's more of a cat man. Cat lover, obviously. Charlie detests cat. Cats normally just do their own thing. Whereas dogs, often, not all of them, but some of them demand a lot of attention. There's a funny video actually of a cat, and it's like this owner, I haven't seen it, right? The cat, I know some sort of joke or something, you know, the owner's expectantly, because he hasn't seen it for like 3 months or something, and the cat just like walks past it like it's not even there. Oh, it's quite funny. But yeah, I think I would go rook c7. I don't like bishop e4 a4. This idea of rook b4, very annoying. Rook b4 h4 is a very important lever, because if you get to keep the pawn on a4 and then suddenly your rook gets active, and White has no way to, you know, you want to bail out as White. I think he'll try and bail out. Rook c7. I don't see him going bishop e4. I think he's going to go rook c7, which is like the silent draw offer. Is that actually definitely a draw anyway? Maybe that's not even a cast iron draw, because you could go b2, bishop e4, b2, rook c7, queens, bishop takes, rook a5, rook b3. Ah, but there's rook g5. Yeah, but still h4. Yeah, it probably must be a draw. I mean, because my idea after rook b3 was if you go king f2, I go h4. Takes, rook takes h3, and then I should win a pawn. Although even that's probably a draw, because you've only got, you know, you're going to be left with g and e pawns against an f pawn. That's pretty much a cast iron draw as well. But you could still play it because you're a pawn up.
Danny, did I miss anything?
No, I'm just saying that I think he's going to go rook a7, which is the bailout move, but the silent draw offer. But the thing is, I think Simon, as we've already established, will try to play for more somehow.
Well, you've sat at the board this long. I mean, you might as well play it out to conclusion without necessarily going crazy. It's quite hard for Simon to go absolutely crazy here, isn't it? He can't. The problem for Simon in this position is he can't sacrifice his rook realistically, because he'll have nothing left.
Yeah. Yeah.
So even Simon might consider sacrificing his rook a bridge too far. So Danny, what did we decide on your song? I need you to. The week is coming to an end. I'm actually quite grateful this game has gone on so long, because it does give us the opportunity. Sorry, and forgive me, our 300 viewers, for me being a little bit selfish. I'd love to hear you sing, Danny.
Okay, what do you want me to sing?
Do you know Running Scared?
Yeah, I'll try that one then. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be brilliant. I'd love that one.
Let me just look at the see what's happening in the other games. I'll report on it. So on board.
Thank you very much, Mr. Waitskin.
Okay, board 2 was drawn. This is very interesting. That means if Grandelius wins, he's
game over.
He's completely winning. Did anybody tip Grandelius to win the tournament before?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, but to be fair, it was like the second seed, so it's not.
Even so, you still. But Danny, as you pointed out, obviously in principle, I thought, by the way, I didn't think Ivanchuk was going to win this tournament. I appreciate there's no one you could say was going to win this tournament, but I think that Ivanchuk, I think that he kind of plays for a bit more of love, etc. Whereas I think Niels Grandelius is, can I say, a bit more professional. Just the point in his career it means
Yeah,
more for him
exactly.
to win this tournament than
He's at his
Ivanchuk.
peak. I mean, he's a weaker player than Ivanchuk was at his peak, but he's still,
Yeah.
you know, it's quite important that you're at your peak. And out of the players that are younger, he's the best one. So,
By the way, for those who are interested, I do have to do a little bit of this, Danny. There is a sale which is probably coming to an end quite soon, up to 50% off everything at GingerGM.com. You can also check out the impending victor of this tournament, we suspect, or his odds on now to win this tournament. Nils Grandilis has done a fantastic opening course. If you want a little bit of a trickier Magnus approved line against the Queen's Gambit, check that out. Nils excellent at explaining not just move by move, but the principles and the ideas behind that opening against the Queen's Gambit, which is a classical opening of chess. So check that out. Back to you, Danny. We're back live with you. Oh, we're not actually. I think he stepped out to warm up his vocal cords, I suspect. We'll go back to the live position. As I said, there has been a move played. Rook B7. Wow. I am absolutely shocked by this move, because it doesn't secure a draw for white here. Black, unfortunately, it's the brilliant thing about this move is that black's got to take on B7. If Simon's going to take it, he can't not take it because he loses people. So I think has this game theory gone so far that that David's played rook b7 because he thinks that Simon's going to avoid the exchange of rooks. Simon simply can't avoid the exchange of rooks here. Rook takes b7 is the only realistic move, even in this position. And I think this is a bit of an OMG moment, because this looks very dangerous to me. I mean, why didn't white play, as we're suggesting, why didn't white play like any sensible move? Bishop e4, maybe. Danny's played rook b7. Is he taking this game theory idea too far? Like, Simon can't avoid the exchange of rooks here. He can't be thinking Simon's going to not play rook takes b7.
I didn't see rook. I mean,
I think it's crazy. I think it's very risky. He's got to take, and he has done. This looks very crazy to me. Maybe it's fine. Okay, maybe I'm overreacting.
It might still be a draw, but
yeah, I think probably.
I mean, I don't think this is a really. Is this a great winning attempt by white? It might be a losing attempt, right?
It might be losing. I think it might be losing.
I think you have to break through to the king side as black.
Okay, you can't do that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you would have thought that with a bishop, it should be okay for white.
It just looks. I don't know what white's aiming for here. I mean, by the way, it probably is still a draw. But I just thought again. It's hard to know why David played this. Is it a winning attempt? Maybe it's a winning attempt, and I once again I'm showing my lack of knowledge and skills.
Yeah, I mean the thing is,
Danny, part of the reason I'm showing my lack of knowledge and skills, I'm still. Can we have a little bit of running scared, please? Because one thing's for sure, neither player here is running scared.
I do a Roy Orbison medley. Should I do a Roy Orbison medley?
Absolutely, please do. Before we leave the before this game concludes.
Scared, so
please do.
Just running scared, no place to go, so afraid that he might show. I can't really remember.
Don't worry, that's fine. We're a bit more of a medley. Just go something you know, that's fine.
Pretty woman, wow, pretty woman with my mate Elvis, yeah. Pretty woman walking down the street, pretty woman, the kind I like to meet, pretty woman. I can't believe you're not the truth. No one could look as good as you. Mercy. Pretty woman, stop a while. Pretty woman, say your smile. Pretty woman, give your love to me. Pretty woman, yeah, yeah, yeah. Pretty woman, look my way. Pretty woman, say your time to me. Only the lonely dum 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 diddle. Know the way I feel tonight, too, yeah, yeah. Only the lonely dum 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 diddle.
No, this feeling ain't right. Ooh, yeah. There goes my baby. There goes my heart. They're gone forever. Don't fall apart. You got a case with your lonely heartbreak. Only the lonely. I'm falling in love with you. Baby.
Brilliant, Danny. I've been told we have to. I've been getting admonished again. As much as I would sit and listen to you all day, I literally tuned out there, and I got in trouble. By the way, just to update you, it's a very interesting point here. It's very clever, actually. Yeah. And just shout out to forgive me. I literally Leo Dasam. Forgive me. It's always hard to know the enunciation or the pronunciation. Rook A7 is a very clever idea here, by the way. Rook B4.
Yeah.
And then White might be forced to play Rook B7 anyway, by the way.
Yeah, I didn't see. Yeah, Rook B4, very clever. Yeah,
Rook B4 is a brilliant suggestion by Leo Dasam. Fantastic.
Yeah, was that engine generated or just...
No, someone in the chat said, brilliant idea. So I was saying before, why didn't you just go Rook A7, thinking that's the way to sort it out? Yeah?
That's the thing.
But apparently this is brilliant. Brilliant idea. This is a brilliant idea, Rook B4. No, it wasn't engine generated. Well, I don't know. I don't think it was. I think it was just a really good suggestion by Leo Dasam. Or, as I say, forgive me, it's very hard. Or Leo, it's very hard for me to know. It could be Leod as am. I don't know, but never mind. It's very hard. With the Twitch chats, I'll ask Legend27373, keep the questions coming in. I assume that was directed to Danny, not me. If it was directed to me, I would say no. But there we go. Let's go back to live position. This is getting very interesting. Rook B7 was played. And apologies, thank you. Just keep me in check. Rook takes B7. Bishop takes B7. Simon's gone A4. I mean, does White have to be careful at all here? Is there anything? What about? So Danny was saying very, very pertinently that if Black wants to try and win, it may just be a draw in some respects. He needs to break through this kingside construction. But Danny, have we got ideas of playing H4 just to somehow try and break the kingside construction? You're pointing out if Black's got any dreams of winning, which he has got, not just dreams, aspirations to win. We need these pawns are kind of not. They're not going to be the decisive factor. They're not going to queen. Yeah. We need to distract the king and then find a way. Obviously, this is going to be far too slow. It's not going to happen. So we need to find a way of King F5 is not going to happen either. It's not going to break through. So we need because after King F, maybe King F5. I mean, sorry. So White's played King D3.
After A4,
I was thinking H4. I mean, I appreciate it's probably a theoretical draw here, but
yeah, I mean, the computer does actually even give a slight edge to White now. So
a slight edge to White.
It gives a slight edge to Black. So
oh well.
It says that White needs to be more accurate to try and hold.
So I was thinking after this whole idea, exactly what Jens is saying. I was thinking the idea of E5. It probably is not good. It's not going to work, is it? But I was just trying something, you know. This was my idea, by the way, Jens Chess. Absolutely. The idea being that after takes, I was hoping I was just trying something, Danny, obviously.
Yeah,
Got to try something, haven't
funny you mentioned that idea of allowing a rook to D1 and go knight C2. The engine said that was a much better way to try and play for the win. So
sorry, Joe, can we just go back to people in the chat? I will keep an eye on the live. Hold on, the moves are coming in, and Simon's played. Simon's gone after King D3 has gone. I believe he's gone A3. So he's maybe trying to distract that white king. He's acknowledging that these pawns won't promote, but he's obviously trying to distract that white king further. King C3 played. I assume he's obviously going to go A2 to freeze that king temporarily on B2. And if White's going to clear up the pawns, it's obviously going to take him quite a few moves to do that. That's the idea. Yeah. Moves coming in thick and fast here.
Yeah.
A2 played, King B2 played, obviously. Now we've got to. We're not at time to really do anything here, are we?
I mean,
we can't do this, can we? It's not going to work, is it? It's not going to work. So we've got to. It's going to liquidate, isn't it? Quite quickly. Draw. My shout about the draw.
Well, they've agreed to draw.
Oh, what? Who?
Oh, I thought you said they've agreed to draw.
Oh no, sorry. No, I was saying my shout out about the draw. I think it's going to be a draw now, but Only black can win, but I think that's stretching the reality of black winning.
Somebody just said in the chat, Grandelius about to win tournament with less tiebreak than Lagarde. So basically, he's going to finish ahead of Lagarde on points, but he would have had a worse tiebreak. So yeah.
Sorry, no, Grandelius about to win tournament with less tiebreak. Lagarde, I see. Okay.
So he's gonna have more points, but if
I don't understand that. So he's going to have more points. What am I missing?
Lagarde had won as well. Obviously, he was playing Ivanchuk, so it's not an easy task. Yeah. He would have come equal first.
And won the tournament on tiebreaker.
Exactly, and he completely backs to what I was saying earlier. I think
absolutely
it was a very win. Oh my God, he did this perpetual in the.
Oh, not that Roy Lopez thing.
Oh no, yeah, you know the perpetual Roy Lopez.
The Queen D4, Queen E4 one.
No, even worse. Where you go like Rook E8 and White goes Knight G5, Rook F8.
Oh, and then Knight F3 and it just hits the pawn on F7. I haven't seen the game, but yeah.
Sad.
Well, it doesn't matter how. By the way, Danny, it doesn't matter how they get to a perpetual thing. Yeah. It's just the fact that he's done it is like crazy, isn't it?
Oh, it's insane because you had such a chance to win the tournament, and you think of all the glory that you could have had.
The legend status.
I mean, is it fair? I mean, I played Lagarde. I played him in an online game. He's a very player.
Danny, of course, it's very hard to beat Ivanchuk, even if you're Lagarde. But you know what? Give it a bloody go. Do you know what I mean?
By name. We don't know his financial situation, so it might have been obviously.
Danny, I think he was. Sorry to cut you. I think he was doing it just to secure. Like we know that he's unlikely, relatively speaking, to beat Ivanchuk. I think he was just more concerned about if he needles Ivanchuk and tries to play for win. Ivanchuk might do two things. One, beat him on principle, but he might just go, look, you're not respecting me. I'm going to try and beat you now. Not take a draw as black either.
Yeah, yeah, but the point is, obviously, you can't play. You can't do these things for free. But the point is, it's not like he's got no chance of beating Bancho. If you had you keep the tension. It's chucky. His nerves probably aren't. Were never that great anyway for like a top player. You keep the tension. You see what happens. If you lose, you could lose your nerve later and offer a draw later. And if he refuses, and so what? The worst that happens is you lose. But obviously, you don't know the situation. It could be that Lagarde is.
I think the money thing might be like the money thing might be the thing. He wants to secure a prize.
Lagarde because he's not the only player to do this kind of thing. I remember the World Rapid Blitz a few years ago, and it might have even been only a couple of years ago. And I remember the last round, people were taking draws. I thought, well, they had to win to try and get in the playoff. There's people like Caruana and Nepomniachtchi and, like taking draws, and I'm thinking, well, it's absolutely ridiculous because...
Danny, do you know what? One of the best pieces of advice I ever had was when I was a young lad, and I was like 10 years old, and I was in a strong position playing the British Under-11 Championships, my first ever big tournament. And I think I was leading the tournament, and I wasn't quite sure what to do, and I spoke to a fantastic guy. He was his first name, but so long ago I can't remember. And he could see I was nervous. I said, he was a coach, a junior coach. I said, I'm really nervous. What about a draw or not a draw? What should I do? And he looked at me, and it was a brilliant piece of advice, which I'll never forget. He looked at me and said, you know what, Blair, whatever happens, you'll go to bed tonight, you'll be Blair Connell. You'll wake up tomorrow, you'll be Blair Connell, whatever the outcome of that game is.
Exactly. But it's easy.
What a fantastic piece of advice.
It's easy to lose your nerve. I mean, actually, a classic example, which I've forgotten about earlier, and now I'm going to bore everyone to death with my favourite topic, Keith Arkle, the love of my life. Or whatever, right? Okay.
Present company excluded, I assume.
Of course, yeah. So you're number two. But he was playing the Scar. I think it might have been the same Scarborough British Championships where Simon did his legendary Guns N' Roses karaoke, right? But anyway, Keith is paired as black against Joe Gallagher in the last round, right? I'm like a point behind Gallagher. I ended up winning my game. I tied for second. But Keith he's got his own fate in his hands because he could beat Gallagher, and then potentially tie. In fact, if he won against Gallagher, he'd have been outright British champion, maybe even because I think he would have actually
And that is a massive title, Danny. Come on,
that's a massive
you'd be so proud if you were British champion, wouldn't you?
Even more history than probably the Reykjavik Open. So
yeah. I would say so.
He's tied. Okay, the game goes E4, E6, D4, D5.
So do you want me to put it on the board or no? I can't. Maybe
You can do it if you want. I don't mind. Right.
Or maybe I think I'll get. But I think bearing in mind what Simon's thinking, I'll keep an eye on the. I'll keep an eye on the board, by the way, people. So if anything happens, Simon's having a
go
little
fairly
thing.
soon anyway to take the dog for one last walk.
Okay, well, let's go on. Just run me through this game quickly then, and then we'll.
Yeah.
I'll concentrate on the game.
E4, E6, D4, D5. Right. Knight D2. Bishop E7.
Yep.
Keith offers a draw.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Obviously,
Probably didn't need to put it on the board.
Gallagher doesn't have to accept. Bear in mind. I mean, he could play on because he could think, well, if I win, then I'm guaranteed. Because at that point, he's half point clear of everyone else. So at that point, if he wins the game, he's basically guaranteed to be outright British champion. But he took the draw because if I take the draw, he's guaranteed at worst a playoff. But Keith, obviously, by offering a draw, he's taken himself out of any chance to win the British Championship. So, on the face of it, that's completely ridiculous. You're basically, it's like Harry Kiri. You're committing suicide on your own tournament chances. But, okay, at the same time, Keith explained afterwards the reason why he did it. He got heavily criticised, obviously, for doing it. Nigel Schultz said in his column and so on, and slagged him off and everything. But he said that he was in the situation where he needed to make some money from the tournament. And I've been in that situation myself. I played last round the British 2015. That was one of the closest years. I mentioned one in Hull a few years ago as well. It came very close there as well.
That was a bit of a false British Championships in a way, wasn't it? Can I say?
Yeah,
that?
it was.
Nick's not with me now, so I can say that.
No, exactly. I mean, I think Nick would acknowledge it himself. It would be better if you won a British with people like. Well,
other people, a bit of a deeper field. I mean, at the end of the day, Nick. We know Nick's a fantastic player. More importantly, Nick was world under-18 champion, which is an incredible tournament to win.
Regardless of that, I still think you could say it's a weak British or whatever, but they still.
I'm sorry. It's relatively speaking.
It's not like anyone was
still
barring Adams from playing. It's not like anyone was barring Gawain Jones from entering or barring David Howe from playing. They could have still played. They just chose not to. Does that? It's like the World Championship coming up. Magnus Carlsen's choosing not to play. Does that? You could argue that. It
devalues would be the classic word, wouldn't it? But
you could argue that detracts from the victory, but I mean, as far as the Nick situation,
we're still going to do it, though,
I wouldn't care less. Like if I'd have won that, I would still say, look, I'm British champion because.
But he's British champion, no doubt about it. He can only beat who's put in front of you. Tell you what passport.
It's in the record books. That's the most important thing. It's in the record books. You won the British champion. You are British champion. Okay, you might have beaten the weakened field, but you still had to beat them. You still had to beat what's in front of you. You can only beat what's in front of you, right?
And you're still going to get the job because obviously the nerves will kick in about I could win the British Championship
because I spent a lot of time with him at that tournament. Obviously, it's quite a small little setup. There weren't many people, so obviously, like in the first round he drew. He was nervous. He was really annoyed with himself. But obviously he's going to come back, and he did, and he ended up winning. So as far as the Keith situation was taking a draw, it's mainly, I mean, sorry, what I was...
I mean, maybe that's what backs him to guard. We don't know, but maybe that was at the forefront of his mindset.
What I was going to say, Blair, is I just gamed in 2015 British Championships. Final round, I'm playing against Summerscale, right? So up to that point, I've had a great tournament. I've been unbeaten. But I know that if I lose the game, I'm going to get a very small prize. As it turns out, it would have been like 50 quid, right? If I win the game, I potentially win £5,000, £6,000, right? If I draw the game, I'm going to get a very decent prize. I think I ended up winning like 1,500 or something like that, tied second. So it's a very difficult situation to be in because, like if you've got lots of money in the bank, you just play, right?
As was talked about Nakamura earlier, it's relative for everyone. Yeah. Absolutely, Danny. You're saying like if money wasn't an issue or it wasn't a concern, it's a very different dynamic.
Exactly, you roll the dice, right? Because I had a situation
your options are much more freedom. Like you've got much more freedom to choose what you want.
That's right, yeah. And we didn't have a quick draw, but I got to a position where I could have
I could have rolled the dice. I could have played on, but I assessed my chances of winning are pretty low, and I thought I'm in trouble if I don't take the repetition here. I thought the sensible thing to do was take the repetition. I didn't know the results on the other boards, and then I turned around and.
So you're not a scoreboard watcher in the old golfing?
No, I didn't want to look at the other results. I thought that would put me off. So I turned around. I saw that the keeper lost. Obviously, I very deflated then because then I know I can't get in a tie break. Hawkins is guaranteed to at least get in a tie break. He then had to sweat the David Howe game and the finish of it. But there's like 3 games where people can jump ahead of me. So it's obviously very likely that one of those is going to be decisive. So yeah, what do you do in that situation? Because you can be British.
There are a number of factors which might be beyond our immediate consideration with this regard situation.
Because at least I played a game. Well, so I think where you're just taking a quick draw like that, like what Lagarde did to me is.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's just you know what, you only live once, don't you? Unless you live in a James Bond film where it might be more.
Showing the whole thing about draw. To be a flaw in chess, the fact that you can have this quick draw, this is why we have. It's sad that you have to have anti-draw rules in place, but I think in this case it would have actually made the tournament more exciting because Lagarde.
Certainly from a spectator point of view. I mean, how many people do you think would tune in general if we to a player like? Well, it doesn't exist. But if Simon had shaken hands after. Simon's not playing for a top finish here, but if Simon had sat down, we don't know what Dave would have done, and off the draw after 10 moves, it'd have been embarrassing, wouldn't it, Danny? Just because you can't be bothered.
Yeah, I was thinking about this earlier, and I thought it'd be quite funny if you were one of these streamers. Imagine if Bogdan Lalic was a streamer.
Oh, that would work.
I mean, and every game, almost 50% of his games just finish early.
But Danny, if I was paid per game to cover it, I'd love it.
But yeah,
Danny, I'd never miss a bloody restaurant booking again, would I?
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, if you, I think you've got to be quite a sort of bold, and I think this has probably helped Simon in a way. Probably helped the other streamers in the fact that they're kind of they know people are tuning in. It'd be interesting to see if other tournaments follow this path of focusing on the streamers. For example, the British Championships. They could do something similar, but I think that would. Do you think Blair? Do you think that would detract from a British Chess Championships?
What? Sorry, I was.
So let's say they had separate webcams set up for streamers who are popular. Let's say they're playing the British. Let's say Simon decides to play the British. A few other people who might be Lula Robs or something like that. Do you think that would kind of diminish the British?
Why do you think it might do? I don't see why it diminish it. I mean, I don't see why it should. I think if anything, it would enhance it to a degree.
Yeah, but I would argue that maybe
you could have just stopped there, Danny. Just you would argue is probably
it
enough.
Would probably, it would maybe trivialise it a little bit. I suppose that would be the argument.
No, but Simon's here to play. I think Simon. I don't think Simon played the way he's played in this tournament. I think Simon played the way he played in this tournament because A, it's his style. B, he's a bit rusty. C, and there we go. A draw has been agreed, I believe. E5 draw agreed. I'm surprised the draw is agreed here. But I know it's a draw in principle. Fantastic, Danny. Just before we love and leave you, it would not be fair to a draw agreed. Very good fight, man. Look at the camaraderie these two guys have, smiling at each other. Got a lot of respect for each other, which we love to see. Danny, where do you stand on Simon & Garfunkel, The Darkness?
I could do some Simon & Garfunkel, right?
Well, that'd be brilliant because someone actually asked. I think it's a lovely comment. 88_Twitch has been with us for a while. Hello, Darkness, my old friend, because it's going to be dark days when we don't have you to tune into and listen to.
That's not the name of the
tomorrow.
song. The name of the song is Sound of Silence.
I know.
So I think
I've done that for a while.
Shall I do a Simon & Garfunkel medley?
Well, look, by the way, let's just confirm before you do, Dan, you can just have a little warm up.
Yeah.
I say congratulations to both players. Very interesting game, very interesting dynamics there from both players. Yeah. In the end, it reached a peaceful conclusion, and you can see the respect that those two guys have for one another, shaking hands in a cordial fashion, smiling. They'll probably may have a look at the game themselves at the bar, maybe have a little beer together. Danny, we'll keep you for a little bit. I appreciate you might have to. You've got dog walking duties to do, things going on in your life. It's been an absolute pleasure of my life.
Thanks for having me on the channel.
It's been honestly, and I know that you've got a lot of love from the people in the
It's been a pleasure to follow Simon's games live. He's very entertaining, plays. Very nice guy. I've known him for many years. Very generous character as well. Very generous with his friends, even the disloyal ones like me. But yeah, no, it's been. I love doing commentary. I think it's really entertaining. I love talking about chess. I mean, it's something I like to do. But as far as the Simon, should I do the Simon and Garfunkel a little bit?
Well, just before we do that, Danny, getting a lot of appreciation in the chat. Thank you to everyone. We understand if you tune out now. I don't understand if you tune out now. I think it's just, honestly, you must have brains of rocket horses.
Someone's off to Tuesday streams.
You must have the brains of rocket horses if you're tuning out now. However, thank you very much to all the support and all the people we've had in the chat. I've really enjoyed it. I'm actually a bit disappointed it's coming to an end, Danny. But they're all good things, as I say, must come to an end. I don't think we're going to have a review of this game because these videos can be watched back for at least a month. Danny, I'm not getting rid of you just yet, but in your own time, sir.
Okay, Sounds of Silence. Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again. And in visions of these sleeping. I can't remember the lyrics. It's like loads of great songs they did.
Left my sights while I was sleeping.
I think their best ever song, to be honest, was Without a Doubt.
The Boxer.
Nah, well, that's a great song.
The Chess Boxer. How about the Chess Boxer?
Yeah.
The Chess Boxer. And that kind of must have built Simon, must it? In Reykjavik, in the clearing in Reykjavik stands GingerGM, etc. like that.
Yeah, the Boxer. I used to be able to remember that song. It's something like the Boxers. I can't remember. It's like I'm a Rock. That's kind of based on my life, like being alone and just like cut off from.
You're a rock. You're an island.
A winter's day in 18th and dark to September. I am alone, gazing from my window to the streets below. I'm a softly silent shroud of snow. I am a rock. I am an island. Now, the most famous song is like a bridge over troubled water. I will lay me down. That's a great song, but was there some of their other songs?
They've done some fantastic.
I really like one of my favourite Simon and Garfunkel.
What about The Only Living Boy in New York?
One of my favourite Simon. I mean, Paul Simon did a lot of great stuff as a solo artist as well, right? Like Graceland and also stuff like Mother and Child Reunion.
Yeah, that's great. I like that. Is that the one which is about not even in the ballpark?
Yeah.
Do you know that one? No, that's a different song, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean the
Slip Sliding Away. There's another good one. Yeah.
For Emily, Wherever I May Find.
And 50 Ways to Leave Danny Gormally.
Golden crinoline of smoky burgundy, softer than the rain. And then you ran to me, and your cheeks flushed for night. That's a great song. I mean, amazing voice. And
obviously, Danny, we may have overlooked, not deliberately, Mrs. Robinson.
And here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. Jesus loves you more than you will know. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And God bless you, please, Mrs. Robinson. Heaven has a place for there today.
Oh, there's a prayer.
That was taken from, I think it was in
The Graduate, yeah?
The Graduate, 1969, Mike Nichols, starring Dustin Hoffman.
Danny, don't leave me! Don't leave me! I'm feeling
Dustin
like
Hoffman
that now,
and
Danny.
Bancroft, who was the wife of Mel Brooks, actually, but he's still going. Actually, Mel Brooks is still alive, but she passed away quite a few years ago. But yeah, that's.
Danny, got a couple of questions in the chat. When are you got any plans to release an album anytime soon?
Oh, Slip Sliding Away, yeah, Slip Sliding. That could be about my rating. Slip sliding away. No, I'm not a good enough singer, mate. I mean, I'm nearly good enough, but I'm not quite good enough.
Danny, I hate to say this, we probably should wrap it up, largely because we have lost literally 100 viewers, and I think that's not because of your singing, because last time we had genuinely gained viewers. Can we just have a couple of minutes before we leave to just think about, how do you think Simon will feel about his tournament or his play? I mean, before I let you answer, it's always my way. Let me let you answer and I'll chip in after you, please.
Well, the problem is, this is what I was, saying, in terms of improving his results, I think he doesn't care enough about his actual results. This is a problem that I feel that Simon faces, is that, there's a clear way to improve his chess, which is to play with more patience, don't sacrifice as much, have faith in his obvious abilities as a chess player, slow down a little bit. And I think it's slightly also partly to do with rust, maybe, that he's not confident enough in his abilities, partly to do with the fact that, he doesn't play enough, but also partly to do with maybe anxiety, like maybe he's having too much coffee, so that's jazzing him up too much. All these things have to be taken into account. I remember I had a tournament a few years ago, I played in a tournament with Telford, and I was really disappointed with my play. And I looked through my games, and what struck me immediately was I wasn't playing with enough patience. And I immediately thought, because I was really disgusted. I had a great chance to qualify for the British Championship, which actually Simon took part in. I think he lost to Michael Adams. It was like a knockout British Championship thing. I really wanted to play in it, and I never actually got.
Oh, was that the thing, the London Classic?
Yeah. I never actually had the chance to play in it, which really, disappointed me, and I really wanted to play in it that year, so I've had a great chance to qualify. I lost to Ravi Hari in a critical game. And so I looked at that result, and straight after that, my results really began to pick up because I really started to understand where I'd been going wrong. And I think if Simon has the same kind of but the thing is, will he question himself enough, or does he? I'm not saying he doesn't care about his results, but I think the problem is, in terms of really improving his results and getting like a breakthrough, is I think he cares maybe more about the creative side.
I agree with you, Danny. I think if any point this comes to pass, I know that Simon has privately, and maybe publicly as well, expressed a desire to play a lot more chess. Obviously, we know that he's got other things going on in his life, and that's kind of the inhibiting nature. I think for me, the acid test of Simon will be if he gets that opportunity to play consistent number of tournaments a year, will he then actually do what you're talking about and challenge himself to do some of the, win in a sort of hard way, a way which he eschews the possibility of the flashiness, but he might win, not ugly, but ugly compared to what he can do in the chess.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, Blair, I think it all comes down to hard work, because you could say, it's psychological, whatever. The problem is the Simon faces is a little bit like an amateur player these days, because he does a lot of work related to chess, but that doesn't relate to playing, right?
Okay, absolutely correct. I mean, these are not like, for example, if you just to explain that to the audience, if someone like yourself, Danny, filmed a course for beginners, that's clearly not, you're working at chess, but it's clearly not helping your chess.
Exactly, but having said that, he's done well out of that kind of thing, because financially he's in a reasonably secure position. Where somebody who may have take a different path in terms of just playing chess, you probably can't reach that position, because you cannot make. If Simon had decided 20 odd years ago, right, I'm just going to be a chess player and just play tournaments and go down that path, he wouldn't be in a financially secure position now.
Highly unlikely. He might be tearing his hair out.
Well, exactly. I mean, it's just very.
I was going to say something worse, but I don't really want to.
So it's like, why do you play chess balls? You don't play chess balls to the buddy. But having said that, if you really say, look, I've got enough money now, I could just go, right, I don't care about doing all this other stuff, and just totally focus on chess. But if you did that, you have to do it really properly, right? Really professionally. I've got the opportunity to do that, and I don't do it really properly, really professionally. I get lazy, right?
You sit around at home and you're like, right, I should be doing some chess work now. Well, you don't do chess work, you do something else, right? You know, like you have to be really professional, and then your approach to the tournament has to be very professional and not going out. As boring as that sounds, staying in a hotel room. And Simon got the personality to do that. I don't have the personality to do that. I don't think Simon has the personality to do that. Very few people have the personality to do that. But you have to be very, very dedicated, and it's very, very difficult to do. You know, so.
But I think from Simon's specific, I understand what you're saying there, but I think from Simon's specific character, it's more about the preparation and mental approach before the tournament for him. Almost like, yes, you know, checking into the Danny Gormally, don't sacrifice all the time,
yes,
for Nick.
Yes.
You know, just understand, like, do you understand what I mean? Of course, yes, it helps to take a tournament seriously and calmly.
And if you work hard on chess, you know, at home, that's great. But the point I was trying to make is, you know, your approach at the tournament is also important, because if you're kind of wired up, you know, because, you know, you've gone out drinking or you know, maybe drinking too much coffee or whatever, you won't have that kind of, like, you know, calmness of mind to play in the way that maybe you should be playing, right? So,
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, a lot of it is just about, yeah, it's just your approach, and, you know, how much. I mean, the thing with Simon is, like, if he plays more, he's gonna play better. And I feel the same with me. I mean, people think I play all the time. I don't. You know, I wish I did. I wish I was playing Reykjavik. I don't play Reykjavik, and I wish I was playing Reykjavik, right? If I could string a few tournaments together, I think my results would improve. Same with Simon. I mean, I watched him. I remember, I don't know how recently this was, but I remember watching him online. I thought, you know, I was watching his games, and he was losing, like, some games, but he's still coming up with amazingly creative ideas. And I could just tell that he was losing purely because of rust. And I thought you could tell how strong he was, but the rust was just holding him back. It was just so obvious that he was just losing because of, like, terrible rust. And, you know, that was just blitz games, of course. But yeah,
hello, everyone.
If he could play more, but the question is, I mean, he generally plays Reykjavik anyway, right? So does that necessarily mean that this is like a precursor to playing a lot more? Is he going to play the British Championships, for example? I think he would actually have a genuine chance of winning the British Championships. Not if I'm there, obviously, but, you know.
By the way, just let people know, I tried to copy and paste a link to Agad Mator's video of Simon's Magnus Opus, his fantastic game in round 2.
Yeah.
Just to show that we're balancing out. Please continue, Danny. I don't know if he'll play the British Championships. Charlie the Chess Cat may have a better paw on that manner than me, but you know, I know that one of Simon's ambitions, dreams, is to win the British Chess Championships.
It should be. I mean, it's one of my ambitions.
What, for Simon to win the British Chess Championships?
Well, I know
strange.
There's a lot of competitive and jealousy, but I did say, you know, like people like Mark or Keith won the British, I'd probably be the first to congratulate them, because it'd be like, yeah, you know, even if I don't win it, it's nice to see that your friends have won it. It's just like harder for them.
Of course, absolutely.
They're in their 60s.
So Danny, sorry, Danny. Ingo_form_legend said, Simon sometimes makes the decision to play positional, non-risky chess with great success during his blitz sessions. I don't see that so much, but I take his point. But he did not do that during this tournament. I think he does that. He may do that occasionally in blitz games, just because by definition you play so many that occasionally even a blind squirrel finds a positional game from time to time.
I think people have this misconception, Simon, that I think he sacrifices because he's overconfident. I actually think it's the opposite. I think he sacrifices a lot because he actually lacks self-belief, total self-belief in his abilities. I mean, people who sacrifice a lot.
So, Danny, if I could just draw your attention, you're right for a few minutes, Danny.
Absolutely.
No, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I'm just going to look back and see what you thought about his. Oh, sorry, not Bota's game. No disrespect. I was trying to find Simon's game from yesterday, and I don't know. Let's just go through. I don't know if you saw it live. Simon was white. We discussed what he was trying to aim for in this position, and we got down to his French defence position, and he played this move, Knight G5, and it's like, I mean, what do you? I mean, really? It was this. This is just. This is. unnecessary, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's like a beginner's mistake. Somebody said in the chat, if Adams, Howe, Jones, Pert didn't play, Simon has a chance to win the British. I think that's slightly disrespectful comment because I think Simon's not much weaker than Nick, for example.
Also, in a 9-round tournament, things can happen. Things can happen to your opposition. It's not impossible that Simon on his day, I know that's a cliched, hackneyed phrase, Simon could beat any of those players. And Simon, I know he's got a bit of a mental block. You know how strong people like Adams and Howell are. We know how good. We know from Simon's perspective, all the first 3 named players that have a brilliant record against Simon, and he's probably got that both. He's got that sort of. They've got the Indian sign over him because they've got such strong. Because they're such strong players.
But I mean,
they've already got.
I'll play. I mean, the thing is, when Adams plays a British, he wins it. Yeah, like he's found.
Of course, Danny, but then he's getting. Dare I say, he's still very strong. He's getting a little bit older.
He's getting a little bit older. Yeah,
he can still. He can still be beaten on this.
He's a class above the English opposition. Most of the English opposition, right? Mm-hmm. Even when he plays British Championships with.
I agree with like your point about that's a bit disrespectful to Simon, because if Simon got to a position where he was on, like, for example, like 5 out of 6, right, which he could get to, he could still, even if you had, and it doesn't often, these two guys don't play all the time, he's still got a chance to draw and win against a Howland and Adams. You know, it's not the most likely outcome of those 2 games.
It's hard to win with those, unless you perform at, say, choices. So you have to get a GM norm. I mean, if I was playing a British Championship, let's say I was playing a British Championship tomorrow with Wade Jones and David Howe and Michael Adams, I've got 5 GM norms my entire career, right? I know I need to get one of those kind of performances done.
But so it's but Danny, what I'm saying is, even for you, sorry, not even for you, I don't mean it like that. It's entirely possible that you can get yourself to the business end of that tournament, and it's now coming down to the best of like 3 rounds, for example. And you could just play, you're capable of beating these guys. Absolutely. So all I'm saying is, for you, it's entirely possible.
It generally happens that way, Blair. You generally get a chance in the British, like, because of the way the pairing system works. You know, the top players all. You know, if you're Mickey Adams, you have to play on ball 1 every game. I played Mickey Adams in the last round of a whole British a few years ago. I was incredibly nervous before the game. I thought I played a great Adams. I'd generally do badly against them.
By the way, just going back to the actual position, if I just move forward a couple of moves, by the way, C takes D4, 96. I don't know how much you've seen of this, Danny. There was a point being here that Simon, by the way, I did ask Simon this by text message yesterday because I wanted to give a bit of feedback. Probably should have done that. The reason I haven't got to that point yet is because I was too busy listening to your singing, and it wasn't a game that you covered live with me. This Queen B6 was the move that the guy... he played King D7. Queen B6 was the move that arguably he should have played. King D7 led to quite rapid capitulation. The only move, I've got the engine in front of me now, by the way, so I'm not going... If I say something now, chat, it's not because I know it, it's because I've got the engine running. Apparently Simon missed a key moment. I can't quite remember what it was. Simon had seen this chess lord. I'm sorry, I can't dignify that with a response, but sorry. But anyway, Simon had, so the idea does continue. So knight c3, by the way, Simon had seen this, and I think he would have continued in this manner. With castles queenside.
Okay, right,
Apparently, it's still very tricky. I think we did a disservice to the difficulty that white. I think black would have still got into trouble anyway, but there we go.
Yeah, because Queen E5, you have like rook E1 with rapid development, right?
That's the idea, Dan. Exactly right. Well played. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So but coming back to what I was saying,
Sorry, let's go back to what you were saying. By the way, Inigo, it'd be nice to look at this line. I would bring my phone out and just try and show you where Simon's slight miscalculation went. But it's more to the point, just very quick, Dad, before I let you get back to your point. The whole idea was that even if Simon has got, and I think Simon could well have won this game, even if his opponent played Queen B6 in this position. But, like, why is Simon having to fight against this type of thing? Anyway, back to you, Danny.
No, I think you got to chat. But the thing is, it comes back to what I was saying earlier. Why are good players, right? Why is Michael Adams, 2,700 or whatever? It comes down to hard work, right?
And if you are willing to work as hard as someone like Michael Adams or David Howe, then you may not get to their level, but you might be able to close the gap a little bit. You know, and
well, we're talking about a player of your caliber or Simon's caliber. Let's be realistic here.
Yeah. Obviously, if you're starting at like 1200, it's probably, you know, unless you're like kids, you're not going to get there, right? But
it's unrealistic at best.
Unrealistic. But ultimately, you know, people talk about talent, whatever. Simon's a talented player. I mean, no doubt. But the biggest single factor in terms of performance by far is hard work. And is someone like Simon working hard enough on chess?
Danny, someone just said in the chat that Keith Arkle works hard at his chess. That's not true, is it?
No, it is. I mean, of course.
It is.
I mean,
I apologise unreservedly.
He does work hard at the board. Whether he does that much work away from the board.
Well, he certainly doesn't do any more, does he? Come on, it's like I don't know.
No, but I remember one time at the British. He claims to do no preparation. I came into his hotel room and he had the chess base running, preparing for his game. So it was like.
I apologise, Pan Hat.
People always try to claim that they do zero work, right? But
what is that all about, Dan? It's almost like, is that sort of the big I am, like, I could be this good and without, and I'd actually, although that book, it wasn't really that chess book, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
what's that all about? Is that an ego thing that you've got to be, I'm this good and like, you know?
I mean, as far as Keith is concerned, I mean, he did do a lot of work, I think, when he was younger. I'm not sure he does that much work on chess.
That was my point. I'm sorry, that was my kind of point, but I appreciate
also,
he has worked hard,
Keith,
so sorry.
You know, he just plays the same stuff every time, right? So it's like...
Yeah.
He doesn't really need to do that much work to maintain the level that he plays at. He works hard at the board. As far as people claiming that they don't do any work when they do is concerned, yeah, I mean, you've got a point there, but the thing is, yeah, I think that generally people do that to try and take the pressure off themselves. It's like a form of self-handicapping, right? Use a sports psychology term or whatever. So you kind of claim that you just don't do any work at all, and that way you take pressure off yourself, or you don't do any work at all, because that way you take pressure off yourself. That way, like, if you don't get a good performance, you say, well, that's because I didn't work hard. That workhorse outscored me, but I'm more talented, right? And if you do get a good performance, then you're just a genius, because you know all those other saddos are like spending hours every day working on chess. You're better than the men anyway, right? You know, with your
yeah, sure, absolutely, yeah.
So it's partly just to take the pressure off yourself, but it's so easy to get lured into that kind of trap that eventually that becomes reality, and in fact you don't do any work because you're like, well, yeah, I mean, I had this discussion with Simon years ago. And I remember him saying something like, well, yeah, I could work this hard and be like 25-80, but who cares? Because 25-80 is a very good point what he was making, because even if you get the 25-80 or whatever, nobody cares. I mean, nobody cares, and it's not going to change your life in any means or form. If you got to 2750 or 2800, yes, it might matter, but
yeah, of course, it changes the whole world. It changes, like, you're right.
Realistically, we're not going to get to that level even if we work very hard. Right? Yeah, we might improve, we might get better, our results might get better. I think part of the problem now, and this is demotivating. I've probably got to go after this, mate. To be honest,
that's fine, man. That's
fine. This is demotivating people, but is the whole way the rating system's broken now, and you're playing all these underrated kids. I mean,
Danny, you said it yourself, like, we've had this sort of rant before, and I'll just fire it back at you. Like, that may be true, and that there is, and obviously, the thing we want to improve things, we want to make a rating system more accurate. It may never be perfect, but who cares anyway? You know, it doesn't matter if you're like Simon's 25-20 or 24-80 or 24-70.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, you know. Ultimately, I know it does kind of like it's a headline figure, and you've got respect for yourself. You don't want the nonsense of people saying to you, "Oh, Danny Gormally's like a GM, but he's not 2500," and you get all the nonsense on the internet from people who are like not even close to your rating.
I think I know that level that I'm playing at now is not reflective of my ability. So it's like I look at players who are above me right now, and I just think I'm a better player than them. I shouldn't be below these players. So anyway, I really need to go and sort this.
Danny, look, let's just say to everyone, Danny, once again, thank you very much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've enjoyed it. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in. I've really enjoyed having the interaction with the chat. Any plans for the near future? Can anyone check out anything that you're doing or anything that you've got lined up?
I'm working on a book on analysis at the moment, and I've also should have another book coming out, which is something to do with tournament battle manual. So it's like it's giving you, but yeah, I've got to go, mate. Anyway,
people out there, look, thank you very much. I'm going to end the stream now. I'm going to raid someone. Danny, take care. Have a lovely time. I'll speak to you soon. Thanks for all your time and company. Thank you to everyone who's been joining me in the stream. It's been an absolute pleasure having you with me. I'm just going to stick around. I'm going to raid someone a little bit entertaining. If I don't think any of the, I know exactly who I'm going to raid. I'm going to absolutely raid Lula Robs, who Simon would appreciate. Played in the tournament last year. Thank you to everyone who's joined me. I've really enjoyed it. Appreciate all the feedback. Keep it coming. Fantastic that Simon was able to set this up. Thank you to everyone who's continuing. Jens, I'm going to raid Lula if that's all right. Please just stick around, people, just to say hello. It's kind of the done thing. Thank you, Victor. Thank you to everyone. Jess Minaj, Insane Lonely, Inigo, I could Pork Up Piglet, Jens, obviously, Planner Hath. Thank you to everyone who's participated. We really appreciate it. And best of luck. Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye for now.